AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions.
Hey, and welcome everybody to our show. So on Saturdays we go live, like it says, to answer questions. We got Tony joining us from New Jersey. Thanks for jumping in.
Thanks for having me.
And I guess I can close my connection or my camera. I guess that was one thing. I've been waiting for the internet to get back to normal, so we can go live here. So we go live. I value the interactive nature of the internet, especially for something like this, the answering questions. Tony and I are both old, and we've both been around guns for a while, so we attempt to bring some insight to the questions that get asked. I'm going to thank people that ask the questions. You just go to the website and ask them. We don't ask for any emails, or you're not trying, it's not like some kind of marketing funnel. Just ask the question if you want, and we attempt to answer it. I want to thank Woods for asking a bunch of them here to keep the show interesting. And I've got the hiccups. I just dumped a cup of coffee. I made a whole big cup of coffee and then was farting around doing laundry and stuff, and then came in the house blaming the dog because I was fiddling with the dog, and then knocked over the cup of coffee onto the ground. So I had to clean up a cup of coffee that I just made and then make a whole nother one. So I've been gulping it down, and now I got the hiccups. So that's my morning. We were talking about...
Have no dog. Made my coffee. Still sipping on it from this morning because I got a freaking cool ass cooler cup or whatever you call these things, and it's still hot.
I do too. I like these big tumblers or whatever. Where I don't know if they're necessarily insulated. I guess they technically are, but they keep it. I don't have a lid on it though. I don't. Obviously, it fell all over the place, but I don't like dripping out of a lid or nothing. But just the cup itself keeps. I just like having a big cup that doesn't fall over.
Yep.
And I guess these tumblers are nice because they taper a little bit, so they don't take as much real estate on the floors. Like back in the day, essentially we would just get big plastic, big gulp cups. That's what I would use.
Yep.
Right. And except that they would sweat and it'd get all over the table. They'd take up a big spot on the table
and they'd run. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that eliminates any of that. Because even if I have ice in here, there's no sweaty cup or anything.
My wife loves them. I know that's one layup. I can get her for a gift every year.
Like never too many, or never too many, or whatever. Chris is so I guess we should start saying hey to people. I mentioned we like doing the thing live because of the interactive nature of the internet. So Woods was the first one out there saying he put in three more questions. Thanks for that. We've got we'll queue them up and go backwards first. Mike White is out there from California. Welcome. Sorry to hear about the the oppression, but what we can do to create awareness and move things along, we'll attempt to do. Got Chris from 740 saying good afternoon, and then he followed up with looking forward to seeing us at SHOT Show in a couple of weeks. I hesitate to talk about SHOT Show. There's you know what it's like. You've been going long enough. You've been around long enough that SHOT Show is a thing that it's a controversial topic at times. So since this isn't specifically a SHOT Show, I won't try to, I'm not scared of it, but I won't delve into it too hard unless it happens. And then Tony's out there as well, but then, man, I'm going to keep saying AR Guns, but AR Patriot Nation joining us as well. Welcome everybody. So Tony and I were talking about tortillas, of course, before the show, and I don't know, were we done, or I remember I was just like, forget it, let's just go live. Instead of we're just sitting here talking about
No, we're talking about Taco Bell and the fact that it's not real Mexican food. You don't go to Taco Bell for real Mexican food.
But it's consistent. So if I had, I don't know, like 6 questionable chain restaurants I never heard of in Taco Bell, I'd probably pick Taco Bell. But, and that would be like a very if. Because if there's the big if there's anything local around and it's anywhere near what I'm going to eat, which is almost a lot of stuff, I'm not too picky as far as like what kind of restaurant I go to. I'll be picky about what I get at the restaurant, but I'm down for trying a local restaurant for sure, seeing what they got. Especially like something homemade, or something coming with their actual recipes and not just some boilerplate version of stuff. Anyway, I'll pick that any day over any kind of chain. But again, if I've never heard of any of the chains, or it's something like barbecue, then I don't have many choices at a barbecue place. I'll go to Taco Bell for sure. And I think that's probably a chunk of what Taco Bell success is they've got options for pretty much anybody. There's a lot, except for French fries for some reason. They have a lot of stuff there that even if you're not into it, you can find something on the menu.
There's just yeah, no matter where you're at, you know what's going to be on the menu at Taco Bell. You know what it's going to taste like. I think the epiphany for me, and it's funny, because it was their Latino family at a Taco Bell, like husband, wife, kids, and I'm looking like, bro, like, why are you here? You can say whatever you want, how inappropriate that was, but I'm like, I guess this is nowhere that, like, it's a good break from actual Spanish food, because nothing about it is even close. Like when I make even my own stuff here at the house, because my wife can make Spanish food. She was taught by an older Puerto Rican lady how to make quite a few dishes, and everything she makes tastes better than anything that comes out of Taco Bell's kitchen. And actually, a lot of local Spanish restaurants, my wife cooks better than actually most. So it's just really funny that I go to eat that, what do you call it? That wish list version of Spanish food.
I imagine some of it is the ingredients. So like, some people are used to or look for the fresh ingredients, a real tomato or whatever. And other people maybe are sick of that. Especially, I was just thinking about this the other day, or was seeing something about this. I don't know where it came up, but like quilts. Back in the old days, people didn't want quilts because that was like, if you're poor, you used a quilt. But if you were beyond that, you didn't have to worry about money so much. Now you could go to the store and buy a fancy blanket. So quilts were sort of, for a while there, I don't know when this was, maybe 50s, 60s, 70s, when we were kids, maybe a little bit. Like if you had homemade stuff, I'm saying quilt, but I guess I could just say homemade clothes, that kind of stuff, patched up stuff. Back in the day, that meant, oh, you can't afford going to the store or whatever, when everyone was striving to get to the store. So maybe there's some element to that, like, oh, eating this stuff is so basic, where, this stuff is fancy. It's from the restaurant. Maybe there's some of that where, there's a lot of corn syrup and that stuff and a lot of salt and stuff. And where you don't use that at home, it tastes different, So not that it's better, it's just that it's different. But who knows? Plain Nut is joining us, and let's dig into some questions. So, what is the most commonly used crime gun? Interesting question. Have you seen that anywhere recently?
Darn, I saw it somewhere and it wasn't what everybody, Ooh, a High Point. No, it wasn't a High Point. I think Glock was really high up on the list because it's what they're more of to steal. I mean, yeah, there's a reason the Honda Accord is the most stolen car, and one of them is because there's more Honda Accords.
Right, exactly. It says there's one from Tony. I found an NPR article from 2023 that the headline is 6 major takeaways from the ATF first report in 20 years on guns used in crime. So I guess it's been a while since the ATF paid attention to that. Wonder why. They're making it, I'm sure that NPR's attempt there is to make it seem like the neglectful ATF is ignoring their job. But in reality, for that 10-year span from 13 to 23, so essentially when the assault weapons ban ended until 23, crime has gone down. So it would have been a waste of their time to be following up on how low it's going, because essentially it's telling everybody how little their job is needed, other than to tell everybody how little their job is needed officially, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I did open up that NPR article. No, I won't donate to NPR. Back in the day, I kind of appreciated NPR. I felt they were like objective, middle of the road. This is in the 90s when I was listening to NPR on the radio. and there was only other radio shows, and it was Rush Limbaugh, and then it was like NPR, and then I don't know what the alternative would be, but I didn't listen to the alternative because I figured the alternative was like what was happening at college radio stations, and that was essentially like kids screaming about being communists and just craziness. So I figured that was about the alternative to Limbaugh, saying how everything's, doom and gloom or whatever he would complain about. And then back in the 90s at least. And then so I considered NPR kind of in the middle, but that's changed quite a bit. And I am halfway down this thing, and they're talking about privately made firearms, blah, blah, blah.
They're talking about privately, trying to cause panic, as always.
Just making a bunch of keywords. I mean, it's a well-crafted piece of website or website content because of the elements they used are very well crafted so that it does what it did. It got to the top of the search engines. But seriously, it says 6 major takeaways from the ATF's first report in 20 years on gun crime. I guess I assumed that would include, some like list of the guns. No, nothing. Just a bunch of opinions. Nothing. So let's see if I can find the actual report, an extensive report. Is this the link to it? That's the one thing about NPR, at least. They know how they're journalists, and they respect that they do things correctly and accurately as far as footnotes, and they won't say anything unless they've, somebody told them it.
Glock.
Making shit up.
It's Glock.
Is it?
19.6%. More than 1.3 million pistols used in crime traced between 2017 and 2021. 19.6% were manufactured by Glock. It's probably also the most likely stolen, and it's also the most likely to wind up in the streets. Densley of Glock Pistol said this gun is both well designed and well marketed. It was in that NPR thing, but you'd have to pull it out.
Okay. I went to the thing, and the FB or the what is this, like a PDF or something from ATF is 55 pages long, so I'm not going to be able to quickly find it.
The magic of asking the right questions. What's the most stolen gun? The funny part about that was it's been Glock for a long time. It's been Glock before Hurricane Katrina. And the reason I say that is because New Orleans tried to sue Glock and take him to court because they said the reason they had so many gun violence deaths was because criminals used Glocks. And Glock ate their freaking lunch in court because they pretty much pulled up the news articles of all the Glocks used, and a significant number of them were stolen from New Orleans PD. Their cops couldn't keep up with their guns.
Right, and it's sort of the same thing as what you were kind of saying there, that, because all of the police guns were this brand or whatever, then every time a police gun gets stolen, it's that brand. Where maybe 5-10 years earlier, they would have said to the police officers, you can carry one of these 5 brands, and now if 10 guns got stolen, it's only 2 of each. Now it's 10 Glocks or whatever. So
yeah, because 10 years earlier, it would have been Smith & Wesson Model 19, Smith & Wesson, Chief Special
or whatever those were, like the Colt police specials and stuff like that.
Detectives,
Because even if they weren't cop guns, they might have been cop guns, and then somebody bought them and were carrying it around because it was a cop gun, or it was still a cop gun, I guess, or somebody bought it as a commercial gun, but in a cop configuration because that's what the cops carried. So the same way people carried Glocks for, I don't know, most of the 2000s, I'd say, into the 2010s even. I think Glocks were pretty much the go-to for a lot of CCW people, at least the people that went to Glocks. One of their big reasons for going into it was because the police carried it, right? So the same way, rewind 20 years, 30 years earlier, even though fewer people carried, if people were going to buy a gun for carry, they'd look at the cops. The cops were carrying the Smith & Wesson 10 revolver. I'm buying the Smith & Wesson Model 10 revolver.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that. Those work pretty damn good, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a little bit of research, and we could easily be wrong. We just went to a couple of websites or whatever, but Woods was saying he meant the model. He had a hard time finding the model. Yeah.
Well, understand that you won't find a model because these people never break it down. They wouldn't even know what a model was. Um, to break it down, and more than likely, it still would be whatever the cops carried in that time frame, called the Glock 23s or Glock 22s.
Yeah, they would have
Depends on the
said
year.
like a Glock, like it's a Glock. Like they don't realize that's like saying it's a Ford. It's a Ford. Like, okay, well, what
Hmm.
kind of Ford? Like, well, no, there's only one kind of Ford. Like, they don't get it.
Yeah, these same people say everything's an AR-15. They never look deeper. And the one time they did was with Daniel Defense with the Uvalde. But other than that, I've never heard really a brand.
Well, Bushmaster.
Um,
Remember, Bushmaster was a big deal.
oh, Bushmaster was a big one. But which one was that used in?
Oh, I forget, but it was an atrocity. It was a certain individual who was playing the media to be infamous for sure.
Mm. Yeah, so
Um,
Bushmaster was one, and that was the other. And what's his name? But they didn't bring it up. Um, Rittenhouse, Kyle Rittenhouse. I think he had a Smith and Wesson M&P Sport.
all right, so that's the most commonly used crime gun model. Then we've got why don't bolt guns come with iron sights anymore in general? I'm 100% just because they were wasting their time. So you got to cut a groove into there. You know, at first you got to take that barrel and probably got to figure out some kind of thing like the sweet spot. I don't know how they figure out barrels, but you know, whenever they figure out when they're building this barrel, they got to figure it out so that it's put into the fixture so that you know it's the right way. I don't know. You know, like I'm sure if it's round, they start just like a golf ball or something, or some kind of test they can do, figure out where the you know the whatever slop there is in the barrel, it's in the direction they want it to be in, and then they figure out there where to put the thing, and then all that. So then I'm assuming it's just less time in the machine shop, right? They don't have to cut the dovetails, or they don't have to cut whatever the interface is. They don't have to buy or build the sites or keep track of them or even have them in inventory. And period. I think that's it, right? And then and I don't think anybody complains.
Well, pretty much everybody smacks a scope on their bolt action. That's anything outside of a 22. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's really what it comes down to. A
Yeah,
22 is your trainer gun,
I can't think of any
unless
caliber unless there isn't like a. Is it the didn't Cooper come up with the scout rifle?
the
And you know
scout rifle.
it might have them because I think that's a definition of it. Like so, it has iron backups because for that hunting gun or that scout gun, the idea was if like a rhinoceros is charging at you and you shot it on the other side of the field or something with the optic, then
Well,
you'd
I
have
just blew
iron
through.
sights, right?
I just blew through CZ's entire lineup of bolt actions, and only 22s have iron sights. Um, yeah, it's just no, just nobody's dealing with that anymore because everybody's going to smack those sights on, just like it's difficult to find ARs. With they just send them flat top. You'll figure it out. Some have flip up sights, but you probably won't use them anyway. Me personally, I do because I'm a dork, but it's just that simple. I'm a dork.
Now my semi on my right, my AR has irons, and I like them. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know anymore. I'm old, I guess, but back in the day, I used to be decent with them. Um, I think it's anyway. I just think it's also the style. Like people just don't want them anymore. They, you know, it's not cool.
Yep.
There's no. It's like you know, if you want that skill, you go to archery or something like you, or go to handgun hunting. Like you don't. Nobody goes, oh, I'm going to go hunting with iron sights. Like I don't even think that's a thing to do, or like a notch on your thing anymore. People just, like you said, if, as soon as it's a bigger gun than a 22, you pretty much are putting optics on it.
Man, even the Ruger number one. All right, here's one. Ruger right now, currently in their catalog, only one Ruger number one 275 Rigby has iron sights.
And is that a like a bear defensive
That's
gun?
a safari type gun the other day. That just one shot old school Ruger. Then you take the African hunts or some crap with the falling block.
Now, the chicken and the egg, did they quit putting iron sights on rifles and everybody didn't care? Or did people say, quit putting iron sights on my rifle? I want it to be cheaper, or I don't want them on there anymore. Or like, I can't imagine they bother the gun. It's possible that putting that dove hole cut in a barrel is bad for the barrel. Like, I'm not a rifle guy, but if that messes with the harmonics and people were like, hey, quit putting that on there, it's messing with our accuracy. We don't need it. Like, we don't want to mess with it.
Well, looking at the firearms industry and the way most companies pay zero attention to what the customer wants until the trend is pointed out to them and beats them across the head.
True.
I got a feeling it comes out from money. It was just less expensive. The majority of people were putting an optic on their rifle anyway, their hunting rifle. Again, we're talking bolt actions. And they pulled them off because there's still iron sights on lever actions. There's still iron sights on semi-autos. Like, they haven't deleted them off of any of the Ruger Mini 14. They haven't deleted them off of, the M1A.
Well, that's because probably they those are guns where they're inexpensive enough and your use of them isn't almost exclusively long range, right? So they're figuring most people aren't going to go straight to an optic. But that's a good point. Like, pretty much everything else has sights on it still. Just kind of, even if they're crude or something, or even if they're just there to kind of.
Yeah, I think Mike has a point. It also gives a gun store one more thing they can sell when you want iron sights. And that's where their markup is. I mean, they can make a little money off of that. And if you don't want one, well, no big whoop. You still got to buy your optic from somebody.
Yeah, well, the thing is, if you want regular iron sights on it, you still got to buy iron sights. So,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a sale. It works better for the industry.
Well, but the thing is, it's sort of like, it's a sale or it's an upscale or an up thing.
Mhm.
But if the company, rifle company can make 1,000 rifles without it, and it saves them, I don't know, $1 million or something, and then it costs $1,500 to build a bunch of sights for the 12 people that wanted sights. That's whatever they call that average. They did the math on that and figured, okay, it's better off for us the long run to do it this way and inconvenience 12 people and 80 people could care less or don't want it.
Mhm.
I think it's more people just didn't care. But then there's also a thing where, like, revolvers, remember how a long time ago in the 90s, I guess, in the 90s, pretty much everything had just fixed sights. Like, nobody was aiming anyway, I guess. I don't know. They didn't bother with they just had fixed sights on them. And then, you could buy trigger or target sights, they call them, and they were fragile and they were, had screws all over them, so you could adjust them, I guess. But you basically had fragile screw things, like, things with screws all in them, and they had like sharp edges and whatever, and they get snagged on stuff because nobody was drawing any guns. Like, nobody was doing that. It wasn't a thing. But then, I don't know, probably shotguns had the first dovetails. I don't know if it's possible to know who had the first dovetails for as far as sights. Because I've seen a lot of old guns with dovetails. I mean, dovetails are kind of old tech from the old wooden days, But somewhere along the line, somebody had dovetails, and they said, you know what? Instead of putting this giant fragile thing on here, what if we just put something like, it's like essentially, I'm just going to default to Glock, something like a thing that we can just knock back and forth. And up and down, we can grind it or file on it, right? But left and right, we can just knock it back and forth in the dovetail channel. And whenever somebody figured that out, I think pretty much everybody looked at that gun and went, oh, yeah, okay, what are we doing? Let's just put adjustable sights on here. Because of the perception and the actual use factor, most people wanted to be able to adjust their sights, even if they never needed to adjust them. If they came from the factory good on, dead on, unless you were changing them with different types. Who cares if they were adjustable? But most people would buy adjustable, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Do they even make guns with just normal sights anymore? Fixed sights?
What do you?
I guess they must. Some of the revolvers probably still do.
Oh, revolvers? Yeah, all the revolvers have fixed sights on them. Yeah, because that was.
But when they come out with a new one, like the what's that thing called? The Chiappa. They didn't bother putting fixed on that, I don't think. I guess
Yeah, they did.
I don't remember.
Yeah. They're fixed states. I was just messing with 1 2 Fridays ago.
Okay.
That was in single action only for some bizarre freaking reason.
Hmm.
Like, the guys at the store were like, we don't know why.
It wasn't
It makes
just
no
broken.
sense. No, it came in as a single action only. I'm like, you're kidding me. They were like, no. And I'm like, why would you even want a single action only Chiappa? Like, it's not even.
Oh, sorry.
Like, it's not even conducive to thumb cocking. It's very high comparative.
I haven't
to
fiddled with one enough to know about its ergonomics or whatever. I didn't think.
Well, it wasn't making sense to me. I picked it up and I'm checking it out, right? Because
They do have a weird grip angle for sure for a revolver, right?
They have a weird grip angle. I like the look because it's different. And it was one of the ones with the rainbow finish. So it just had that whole, multicolored metal rainbow looking finish that the Big has on some of their guns. I don't know what you call it. But I thought it was interesting. And I'm pulling the trigger and the hammer's not going back. It's just advancing the cylinder. The hand is pushing the cylinder around. And he goes, yeah, it's single action. And it's still not clicking with me. I'm like, why is this thing not rotating the cylinder? It's single action. And I'm like, still click, click. And then I cocked it with the hammer with my thumb. And I look up and I'm like, it's single action. He was like, yeah, single action only. I was like, I'm sorry. It just wasn't making sense. Now, I don't know if they have it as an SA only, or did Guy ask for it, or I don't know. But it was $1,200 to $1,300, and no is my answer.
Well, maybe they're all that way. It says the Chiappa is single action only because of its barrel design. The design necessitates the hammer be cocked manually for each shot, resulting in single action firing.
Ew.
What? No, I've never heard of that. Is that for real?
I did not know.
I thought I've shot one, and I don't remember that.
I just assumed. Well, they don't seem so cool to me now.
That's from 2023. Is that for real? That's... No, this is California legal or something. In single action mode, right? So, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to go over and walk over near one and fiddle with it now, just because I don't know. Here's one from 2011. Semi-automatic revolver. Oh no, wait, that's something else. That's the Matuba or whatever. Rhino typically operation, forget the parameters. The only similarity is when the trigger is pulled or the hammer is cocked, its cylinder rotates to the chamber before the gun is fired. So it sounds like it's double action. The single action firing mechanism within the Rhino operates like a standard striker fire semi-automatic. By retracting the cocking lever, the striker is preloaded. I had no idea. I thought I shot one because didn't they make a 40 caliber one? I'm almost positive I shot a 40 caliber one at range day one.
Yes, they made a 40 cal one.
When you hold a revolver and it's not working, you're just going to pull the trigger. You're going to pull the hammer back and shoot it. And if I just did that reflexively or something and just assumed it was broke because it was the trial gun or something, maybe I just assumed too much. But I don't know if I've shot them besides that. I must have shot them other times, but that would have been back in the mid 2000s though.
Well, outside of that, then if that's the case, I don't want one. Taylor and Company, I know you heard of those guys. They have a new 7-shot revolver that they are importing from Italy right now.
Is it going to be a shot?
They should be a shot. Got the magazine over here, but she told me, the owner of Taylor and Company told me that they had something new. She wouldn't tell me what it was, but she said, we got something new coming in and you'll like it. So it's Yeah, I talked to her about it at Shot last year.
Oh,
Uh, I talk to her all the time. She's a really nice lady. And booyah, got 963.
okay. This is it.
Yep.
$1,000.
So it's already been out there. It's an Italian company. They were importing some of their stuff, and I guess Taylor, did what they do. I mean, they got their guns from Italy, and they bought these. So if you want to see something, you actually have to look up the original Italian company to see reviews on it.
But they are out here then, or they're not?
Yeah. I mean, they're for sale right now. I'm looking at one company's got them for $884.
They get mad if we talk about prices on here.
Oh snap! Sorry. Yeah.
I don't know. I think
So,
or something. So,
Oh,
or at least somebody got spanked for it the other day, so I figured.
all right.
Anyway,
Just throwing it out there. Yeah.
so since we are talking about that kind of stuff, since that was kind of adjacent to SHOT Show, I figured I'd mention this thing, this BTM 1022 folding stock. Have you heard of it?
No, BTM. Who is that?
I guess I don't know either. Oh, Samson. Sorry,
Okay.
it's from Samson.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's the one that looks like the 18.
Yeah. Okay, you've seen it. Okay.
I heard about it. Oh, wait a minute. No. You know what I confused? I know someone was selling them for the Mini 14. Now, what is this?
No, this is for a 1022. So it's for the takedown 1022s. It's a different chassis that makes it look like Mini 14.
BTM folding.
Yeah, so there'll be a SHOT Show. Oh no, it's Samson. They just call it Samson Manufacturing. They just call it the BTM. I don't know what that stands for.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm upset because I can't have it regardless. I mean, I can get it shipped in. You know what I mean? I can get it shipped in by mail to me, but I can't put it on a 1022 unless I pin the stock.
Is the takedown part okay?
The takedown part is fine.
Lame.
It just says here in their thing it's for the Ruger 1022. It didn't say anything about takedown.
If it's already if it already exists, I didn't know about this. So and there's a million things that exist, and I'm just finding out about them. So I don't pay that much attention to what's going on. It's possible that the takedown model is the new thing, and that they've already existed, but I don't know. I just saw that it's a new thing at SHOT.
My whole thing is it would be cool. It would be cool to have it, but then to have the fracking stock pin so it wouldn't fold is fine too. I mean, I just added to my 1022 collection because I have the 1022 that's in the chassis for Hightower Armory and the PS90 or P90 chassis. So it looks like a P90 with a suppressor. And my whole issue with 22s, not an issue, but one of the things I like about them is you can make them look like almost anything and just have like a nostalgic, fun time with a gun. Like, the M&Ps. I mean, not M&Ps, the MP5s, 22 caliber MP5 that HK makes. Or they don't really make it. What department makes it?
Well, do they still make them?
Well, what they did, another company was making them, and I used to have the USP from it. What was that?
It was like two letters. It wasn't M&M. We had their
No.
posters all over the place. I can't think of them. But anyway, we know who we're talking about. The 22.
Anyway, yeah, they had another company making the 22 version, and they'd licensed it to HK licensed it and allowed them to make it. Well, HK took it back. They're still having the same company make it, but the HK took it back and they have their name on it now.
First one to think
same
of it.
time.
GSG. Chris got it.
Yep.
He won.
Wait a minute. No, it's not GSG.
Well, that's the one I was thinking of because the GSG.
Oh, that's what you're thinking of?
Yeah, because they made a clones, for a while, 10 or 22 caliber clones of the.
Yeah. um, fudge knuckle. And the reason I'm upset is because I brought it up to the HK rep when I was there, and we were talking about it. Oh well. Anyway, we know what we're talking about, and G was it GSG is close enough.
But anyway,
But,
we're talking like that. Going out
so
just shooting fun at the range, having recreational shooting.
so to me, yeah, I mean, owning an MP5, owning a real MP5 is a very expensive endeavor. And then launching a bunch of 9mm out is also expensive. I live in a state where I am not going to legally be able to have a suppressor, so that throws that out. So having one of the 22 rifles that's an MP5 clone that says MP5 on it has the same what do you call them, diagrams? I forget the picture, ideograms on the side, just like a real thing. Having a faux suppressor on it, and I'm shooting 22s anyway. And if I want to be corny with it and have a quiet one, I can shoot shorts or I can shoot, subsonics, and just have fun shooting something that operates like an HK. And same with this P90 that I have here from Hightower Armory. Same. With the Colt or whatever, with the Beretta that shoots 22, the Beretta pistol that looks like an M9 but shoots 22s. You're just having fun, and you can pretend to be John McClane, yippee-ki-yay, and go to the range and not spend a crap load of money, shoot all day, introduce friends and kids to the gun. I think it's a great idea. Some people don't like 22s, and I get it. But for what I'm talking about and introducing people to firearms for the very first time with that movie gun and don't have that gun concussion, don't have the recoil, and you can still pretty much teach them the basics and turn them into a gun addict, yeah, I'm cool with that. Matter of fact, I think it's necessary.
I can see people not liking 22s because they're little tiny barrels and they get real filthy because the ammo's dirty and stuff, and they shoot dirty because they have usually some kind of, recoil that gets them filthy most of the time, unless they're bolt actions. But either way, they're going to be tedious to clean and stuff. But the thing is, I think it's the type of shooting you do. So if you're, first off, rich people don't want to worry about saving money, fine. So they're off the, whatever. But anybody who's trying to save money or whatever, what are you going to shoot, a bolt action 22 or like a single action revolver 22, even a double action revolver 22? Anybody who's shot a revolver 22 more than a few times knows how tedious they are to reload. They're just annoying. So having something that is more comfortable, or at least looks like a regular gun or the size of a regular gun, is just an alternative to, what else are you going to get? A Mark II or a Mark V or whatever those Rugers are. They're super hard to clean, and I don't think they look all that great. They're super heavy. There's a Smith & Wesson version and a Browning version. Same kind
Browning
of
Buckmore.
They're tedious, and you got to clean them and stuff. But I mean, then they're more accurate for sure. I mean, they're nicer guns in that. But if you're not looking to either buy an old one to save money, or if you're not looking to have such a fancy, heavy gun, then something that's mimics some other brand. Doesn't matter if it's mimic something else, then, or what brand it is you want to mimic. You don't have to be buying it just because it's mimicking that brand, is I guess what I'm saying. You're buying it because if you want to shoot 22s, then that's a gun that's for an adult to shoot 22s at a rate that is fun to shoot and not super tedious and boring. But I was going to say, that's all a factor of, if, like for me, when I was going to the range on a regular basis, if I was there to maybe practice, and I'm not weird, I don't go to practice every time I go to the range. I go to the range to have fun and try a new gun or whatever. I just go to the range to hang out with people and stuff. I went to the range like as much as a social thing as ever a training thing. And then for a while I was going to the range to take pictures and stuff, so there's all kinds of reasons to go to the range. So for me at least, if I'm going to drive all the way to the range, which is at least a half an hour if I go to the closest range, and hour if I go to the longest range far away from here in town still, then I don't want to turn right around and come home after I've shot about 50 rounds of ammo. Like, who's unless you got nothing else to, or you got something really important to do that day. I've got a lot of time invested driving over there. I'm already going to be cleaning guns, So what do I care if I'm cleaning 3 guns or 4 guns or 2 guns or 3 guns or 6 guns or 8 guns, right? Like, who cares? Like, I'm going to go to the range. I'm going to drag the stuff with me. And then there's something to be said for, there's some people that are like, I'm going to the range to shoot this 9mm gun. You know, it's the 9mm shooters talk and
Yeah,
act,
that's how they sound. Yeah, definitely.
right? They go, I'm going to go shoot my 9mm gun. And then they buy, 49 rounds of ammo, and they go shoot 49 rounds, and they turn around and come home, right? They're very efficient. But sometimes I want to go to the range with like a giant box of stuff and go, what do I want to shoot? Or if I'm going to the range with a bunch of people, it's like, what do you want to shoot? Like, let me look in your box. You can look in my box, and we'll, swap or whatever. We'll shoot out of each other's box or something. Or you just want to surprise yourself. You get to the range and you're like, oh, it's rainy, so I don't want to shoot target stuff today. I want to try shooting some CCW in the rain because I don't do that enough. Or, whatever. I want to have an assortment of stuff, and maybe I'm not going to shoot everything in that box, but maybe I want to bring 8 things and shoot 4 things, right? So that's where, again, you get into, again, if you're going to spend time at the range, then, I wish I had the money. I've never had the money to just whale through expensive ammo all afternoon. On a special occasion, somebody's birthday or something, something happens, somebody's getting married or something. All right, we're going to blow through a lot of ammo. But every Saturday or every other week, or every month even, you're going to the range. Like, yeah, having 500 rounds of 22 costs, well, back in the day, it would cost you like $20 or less. I don't know what that costs nowadays. But, how long does 2,500 rounds take? You get bored of it. It's not like you're going to sit there all day shooting 22, but you can get whatever, itch you still got to scratch or whatever out with 22 for almost nothing. And then, you got another gun to clean. Big whoop. So anyway, I always thought of 22 as just like dollar cost averaging if you're going to the range anyway, and you're going to spend some time there. Shoot. Maybe you're shooting and you're like, man, I'm just not shooting good, and it matters. Like, for some reason I need to qualify or I need to shoot good. I'm going to go shoot 22 for a while and get my mind off of things. I'm still shooting, still here, I'm getting in touch with the range and everything. I'm hanging out, whatever. Or maybe it's that kind of thing. You're trying to get some work done and like all your friends show up. All right, I'm going to pull out a 22 and BS with them while I'm plinking. And then when they leave, get back to business and sight in this rifle, depending on what kind of situation it is. Anyway, I could just see 22 being such a useful thing. I can't imagine. I understand why people don't like it, but I don't know anybody who doesn't have any 22s. I know people that have 22s. Like, well, I have my 22s, but just so they're quiet. Or I have my 22s, like, just for this or just for that. But I know more people that just have a lot of 22s.
Well, my whole thing about a 22, again, like I said, is introduction. And also, like you said, you having that day that you're just shooting off with your main gun, whatever the heck it is not going where you want. Reach over, unzip, pop out the 22, pull the trigger. All right, wait a minute. All right, it's me. It's just me shooting this other gun that sucks today. Let me get my poop together. And you can run a couple mags through your 22 pistol. All right, I got my basics down. I was flinching. I was anticipating recoil. I was doing something corny that I'm not doing with this 22 because, again, not the concussion, not the recoil, and I just did the basic sight alignment, sight, picture, trigger, pull, follow through. I did it. All right, now let me pick up my main gun since I pulled my head out of my butt and run some rounds through and hit the target like I want. I've done that. I think we all have. We switched guns because we were like, wait a minute, is it me? It's like, yeah, it could be you shooting that gun. You might suck today.
Sometimes people don't realize this, but it's more obvious with 22s because they're longer. There's more bullets sticking out of there. But let's say you have a box of bullets. Here, I'm going to use. Do I have a box of anything in there? Come on, I don't have a box of anything. Let's act like this is a box of bullets. So this is a box of bullets, right? Except these are screwdriver bits. Now, if it fell on the ground this way, every one of them bullets is going to knock over to that side, and each one of them bullets is going to shoot to the left. A lot of people don't know that, but you want to be careful with your ammo.
Well, that's why you had to tune in to shows like ours to get that type of information. Anybody who doesn't is just being woefully ignorant.
So I don't know how we got on that, but that's how come bolt guns don't have iron sights anymore. Went on on a trip with that one. So what's the next one? Thanks to Woods again. What is the minimum price range for a quality CCW? You define what quality means. His answer is 250 to 300 ish. So what's the minimum price range for a quality CCW? I'm going to always go revert to, if you're looking for cheap and CCW, I'm going to have to default to like, why? Like, why do you have to do it so quickly or whatever? But if I have to just answer it, then please trade in Glock. Done.
100%.
Whatever that costs. I
Okay.
like 18 personally, but 22 if you have to.
What was that? You like what?
I like the 19, the essentially the mid-size Glock that's, not quite as long in the barrel, not quite as long on the grip, has a few less rounds than the full size, although most police trade-ins are going to be the full size 17.
All right, this is what you do. Here's a cheat code to everyone. Okay, I put minimum. One, let's go with quality, because quality doesn't have to mean expensive. Let's stop BSing. Quality has improved on a lot of the guns that come in at lower costs, but the quality has been there, the testing has been there, and the years have been there for both Smith & Wesson M&P and for the Glock as the go-tos for a significant number of police departments and people. Right now, sub 3, you can get those as Leo trade-ins. Why wouldn't you? I personally would go for the Glock 22 or the Glock 23, because with a barrel change, you can have both 9mm and 40 with the same handgun. Right now, AIM Surplus has for like $80 for the barrel swaps. So I'm like, why wouldn't I? And
that's super smart. That is a good idea, because then you can shoot either ammo also.
Either ammo, stockpile, however the heck you want to get your 9, have it set aside. Buy your 40 for when the wheels fall off and something hits and all of the 9 is gone. 40 is still there well after 9 is gone, and you have that. And if you just want to be a nerd and get it because it's there, pick up a 357 SIG barrel, because. And now you'll have 3 caliber options for one handgun.
Heck, if you really want to go crazy, you can get a 22 slide for it. And you'll just pull the slide off of it, put a 22 slide on top of it instead, and then a different magazine, and now you're shooting 22 out of it.
I'm just saying, there's abilities to. That's why I would go with the Glock 22, Glock 23 law enforcement trade-in, and now you're sub $300 or around a $300-ish price
now,
range.
with all that stuff, you're not you with the base model, not with all those accessories.
With the base model, but with the accessories that you can buy at any time in the future, you can wait till you save up some money. You can wait till a sale. You can wait till you find out somebody has a discount code. Just signing up for the email over AIM Surplus gets you 10% off those barrels. You know what I'm saying? So now we're already down to $70. So if you shop and take it easy, you can. If you only going to buy new and go to the gun store and buy, I'm telling you, that's like paying sticker price for what's in the window of a car in a car lot. But if you're going to go there, the numbers stay the same for me with that. Now, if you want to go to Canic, I think that's one. But now you're starting to deal with something that doesn't have as long of a track record as the striker-fired guns I talked about before. But you get in the lower price range, but you may have quality control issues. You may not, but that's somewhere to go. Something else that I think a lot of people sleep on is the Beretta APX that they have on sale all the time everywhere. And that comes around $3,000, and you have a solid company in the name of Beretta. You have a good gun, and you have one you should be able to find accessories, magazines, holsters, that kind of thing for. So we got, what was it? Canic, Beretta, the Taurus G3, and that's the only one I'm talking about is the Taurus G3. I heard has a good reputation, but Taurus has an issue with their quality control. Sometimes it's hit or miss, and then you have to wait months to get your handgun back. And then there's a fourth one. Oh, CZ. Right now, something's going on with CZ with their P07, the P09. They're on sale for barely over $3,000 for brand new guns. and 9 mil. I would look at those too. The P07 is the size of a Glock 19. And they have a good reputation. They're used by police forces throughout Europe and smart people here that know a quality hammer fired, low bore axis handgun with a large trigger, large trigger guard that you can shoot with gloves on. And I would look at that too. So those are places to go, again, around 300. Now, as far as a PSA dagger, again, run some rounds through it and make sure everything's copacetic. They have been getting a more and more and better reputation. They have more and more options that you can get something with a slide cut, optics cut, and eventually put an optics on it. I mean, optic on it. And a lot of companies have sales on that too. My whole thing is if you're going to catch stuff on sale, you need to get the best bang for your buck and not just the cheapest thing you can buy. I don't think they're necessarily the same thing. The cheapest thing you can buy may not be the best bang for the buck, especially if you got to replace it, send it back, or it doesn't work. Get you killed in the streets.
Yeah, often inexpensive is either old or inexpensive is, they save money on the material or they save money on the design. So like a, cruder design takes less time to create, less manufacturing process, less time in the, in front of people's or in their hands or in their machines or whatever. Sometimes that works out great, like an AK, very simple design, very easy to make. They probably used the cheapest materials they possibly could and made the design just robust enough or hardy enough to deal with, whatever suffers from the material choices, so that they didn't have to go high-end materials or high-end manufacturing. And that came out pretty well. But I think there's quite a bit of engineering and ingenuity to, achieve that. And people might go for that, but you don't know that that was accomplished until it's just wailed on over time by a lot of people, right? A lot of conditions. So in 80 something, you had Glock come out and you had a bunch of people who hated it a lot, right? Like in the beginnings. So I would say easily through the 80s into the 90s, if not through the 2000s until today, there's people that hate it so much that they're going to give it like everything but even unfair challenges to make sure that it can even go close to what it says it can do. And here it is, still a company today, right? Like you can make anything fail. So you can make one fail, but there's been people trying to for a long time, and they have to really go through some effort to make it fail. So it exists. Boom. There's that. You can't deny that it's existed since the 80s. Now there's the Sigma, and there's a couple of others here and there, but pretty much everything else has been invented since CCW laws changed and people's interest in carrying a different gun than a Glock essentially became big enough to start making designs for it. So now, instead of like one gun that everybody buys and everybody challenges and everybody tests, now there's, how would you even know how many guns there are today? It's hard to think of how many manufacturers there are, let alone how many models at each manufacturer. And now all these new gun owners, how many are being sold? People own 5 or 6 guns. So back in the day, you'd buy a gun and you took it to the range, and then you bought like another gun of a different type. Most gun owners don't buy, well, I shouldn't say that anymore, but back in the day, most gun owners didn't buy a Smith & Wesson, then another Smith & Wesson revolver, then another Smith & Wesson revolver. Some do, but most would buy like a revolver, then they'd buy a shotgun, then they'd buy a bolt gun, then they'd buy a pistol, and maybe they bought another shot. You know what I mean? Like they kind of bounce around like that. But nowadays people are like, I want this gun, I want that gun, I want this gun. They're all pistols. They're all 9mm. They all use a different magazine. They all have a different something. They're different guns. So who's going to suggest to me that everyone's out there using these guns the same way we did in 1990 when we had 2 guns? We had our 1911 and we had our Glock, or we had our Ruger and we had our revolver. You know what I mean? Like every weekend we took the same gun out and wailed on it. And we may not have loved it, but it was our gun and we wailed on it. So, I've got decades, I guess, technically, like the 90s and into the 2000s when I was still shooting a lot, of shooting all these guns. And the one thing that lived through all that. It's a 1911 Beretta 92 and a Glock. Everything else is watered down to the point where you're going to come along at this watered down, tell me that it's Hardy, Campbell's Thick and Hardy or whatever it's called. Like, no, it ain't. It's watered down tomato ketchup or tomato juice, and you know what I mean. Like they're hardy, for as hardy as a gun can be when 12 people have wailed on it. But then there's that gun over there that's been wailed on by entire nations, like whole generations of people hated it, and it's still sitting there. And now let's talk about the shape of it. Oh, I don't like the shape of it. But that shape fits into a holster at any gun shop you go into. It fits into, a rail on anything you buy. The magazine hole fits into every mag pouch. That's the gold standard. That's what everything's built from. So, okay, I got this one, but it's like you mentioned, the big trigger guard. Oh, this one's got a bigger trigger guard, so I can put my. Oh, that's awesome. I'm very sure about your big trigger guard. Find a holster with your big trigger guard, and you're going to be like, oh, I can commit myself to 4 trigger holders. Well, okay, then that's why it's not the best option for everybody. Biggest finger, you wear gloves all the time, then maybe you don't want the best option for everybody. You want the best option. Somebody who's wearing cold gloves has to wear gloves all the time. And everybody's got their different issues, but I think the Glock is, it's like the 1911. You're going to say like the 1911 is, like any kind of anything. There's just nothing that's been around them. It's lived through world wars and stuff.
Well, 1911, it's out there. It's gone from only 1 or 2 companies knew how to make one that works to like 4 companies that know how to make it work, and they sell to other companies, put their name on it. But I mean, let's be truthful, right? A lot of the inexpensive 1911s either come from TSOS in Turkey or come from Rock Island in the Philippines, or Arms Corps, or whatever they call themselves. But
aren't Smith or Springfield's made in South America?
It's somebody that's making them. I don't know the name, but because I was looking stuff up, because I'm going to approach them during shot and ask them, not Springfield, but everybody else. I'm going to ask them about sending us 1911 so we can have them at diversity shoots, so I can actually advertise. We're having 1911s from $500 to $5,000 at diversity shoot. Come see yourself the difference in between them. And one reason I want to do that is introduce people to whether you want to buy $500, $600, $700, $1,000 1911 just to have one in your collection, just to see what it's like. Because like the guys here in the comments are saying, a lot of people are rounding out their collections. Everything is not a Strike-Fire 9mm anymore. They want to check out other stuff. So I'd like to give them a chance to check out a classic, 2 World Wars, yada, yada. But there are not many handgun designs out there, really. I mean, Browning tilt barrel system is still the number 1 selling type. You know what I mean? It's still the number 1 seller, regardless of how you put it. Glock is doing the same exact thing, has the same exact lockup as the 1911. John Moses Browning comes.
The same gun,
All I'm saying is John Moses Browning came back from the dead and looked around. He would not be impressed by the guns the handgun community has out there right now. He's like, really? I've been dead since the 1930s, and this is the best y'all came up with in the last 100 years?
Essentially, they move around the barrel, and then they make it so that there's not so many parts. The good ones, at least, make it so that you don't lose all your parts when you take it apart.
He's like, I figured this out all on a piece of paper. But what I'm saying is the 1911 gives somebody a chance to, hey, maybe I just want to get into it at the $500 level. All right, cool. Let's have a couple of companies that have that level of 1911, that price range. I'm going to ask them for entry level.
It might be tough to get well, actually, no. I was going to say it might be tough to get the top end ones because they're going to go, oh, we want to compare ourselves with the low end, but what do they care? They do that all the time.
It's not about that. The top end gets a totally different speech. Top end goes, I have volunteers that come here that own multiple guns. And why not give my volunteer your gun to run in the port? And they can see whether they want to buy this heirloom gun because they have a Springfield. They already have a Kimber. They have a Smith or a Sig. Why don't you allow them? Yeah, why don't you allow them to check out your gun? I have about 20 volunteers on tap. I have 24 events a year, and I've been doing this for 9 years. You know how many guns their hands going to be in? How many range days do these people host a year? And how much do they have to pay their reps to go to them? I got 2 dozen in Jersey alone. I'm like, I can have your guns in people's hands for years with this one investment from you. How many guns do you think I can sell? Your gun's gonna have to sell itself, and it's gonna be in a port with a Rock Island, a T sauce, and a Smith. If you're fill in a name of high end company can't sell itself in that, then that's cool. Don't even give it to me. But I believe it can. I believe people who in the market to go, you know what? I want an heirloom gun. I want this gun. I see the difference between it and the others. I want to buy it.
Well, there's something to be said about when you're doing an orientation type of shoot, you're or just somebody who's going to the range and let's say renting a bunch of different guns. I'm kind of getting off a little bit of the topic here, but it's
Mm-hmm.
still the idea of like, somebody's got a budget and they go to buy something at the store. So you got to start somewhere, right? Let's say you're going to go to the store, you got, what your price range is. Ideally, the best thing advice is to go to a rental range, a range where you have like a selection of guns you can rent and call around. If you've got more than one of those available, call
Mm-hmm.
around and find the one that lets you swap them out. So sometimes they'll say it's $15 an hour to rent a gun, but you shoot 5 rounds and come back and swap it out with a different gun, shoot 5 or 10 rounds, swap it out with a different gun. Now you don't have to, you're not purchasing nothing, you're literally renting time to experience there. And that's essentially what Tony's doing with the diversity shoot in a obviously different format. But so if you get that option, if you haven't done this before, if you're buying or if you just want something to do that's different, um, I mean, I'm sure, I hope that people have done this who are gun owners, but if you haven't done this before, then, I mean, please do this at your earliest convenience. But again, call around, make sure you can find a gun shop that's going to let you do that, the most cheap, right? Or find out if they've got some way to accomplish what I'm about to say. But essentially, go in there and do what I just said. Shoot 5 rounds out of this, shoot 5 rounds out of that, 10 rounds, however much you feel comfortable with your budget and your time frame. But go in there and shoot a bunch of different guns. And if you haven't shot like let's call it, I call it like um, like the 1970s police detective revolver, like a little J-frame revolver, a little 5-shot revolver. Shoot one of those. Shoot a Smith and Wesson J-frame. Shoot a Ruger. I don't know, Super Blackhawk something, which is kind of a modern single action, big solid gun, just a totally different gun than those other two. 1911 is one of those guns where if you're going to try different recoil impulses, different kind of snap, and different kind of follow through, it's like the difference between driving a crotch rocket and a Harley and a motocross bike, right? Like you're going to be shooting pistols, handguns, but they're this spectrum, and that's where 1911 is. I don't know. It's like the Harley, right? Like it is what it is. You can do just about anything in any bicycle and any motorcycle, but some motorcycles are best used for some things, and that 1911 is a jack of all trades. But no matter what work it's doing, it's like the it's all metal. It's the metal and wood version of the tool. It's not the hollow aluminum with some electronics getting the job done inside. This is the wood and metal, maybe a mechanism or a gear in there, but it's all you're carrying it. Like there's the recoil is less, the round is big, but anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent, but I could see that being an experience for somebody, or being a useful experience for somebody to see. Oh, these guns look differently, but they shoot totally
Mm-hmm.
different.
Yep. I'm like, look, there's a lot that people can learn here, and everybody, because one of the things that I've learned about my own event that others don't understand because it took me a while to learn. It's not just new gun owners. It's not just people interested in shooting a gun for the first time that come to my event. It's the dad that owns 17 guns, but he hasn't been able to convince his kids to shoot his guns because it's a dad thing. Well, why not take you to Tony's event? He'll show you how fun it is. Well, the dad is not going to be impressed by shooting your stock Glock 19. He might not even pull triggers. But now all of a sudden, I have a Zev on the line. I have a Nighthawk or Wilson Combat, what is the new one, the 5.0E from Rock Island, and he's read about it and heard about it. I have, a Langdon Tactical M9 or a Langdon Tactical Beretta. Oh snap! I've seen videos about these. Yeah, hell yeah. And yeah, now he just bought his 27th handgun, his 40th handgun, because he shot it and dug it. I had to learn a lot about my own events because I was basing on assumption that everybody who walked in the door is a noob who's just going to shoot guns for the first time. And then I discovered that no, there are a lot of people that have a lot more firearms than I do, and they'd be really bored shooting my pedestrian guns or the guns that some of my guys bring in. My guys bring in some higher end guns. If they choose to show people that particular gun on that particular day. Sometimes they text me, what do you want me to bring? And, I can get them, hey, bring the Springfield Armory 10 mil, bring this, bring that. But most people, like us, they have that ceiling that they have, they don't own many guns over $1,500, many handguns. So I'm going to talk to a company so I can get those guns in that price range or above. Because maybe they will. I stick you on the port with Nighthawk customer Wilson Combat, who's another high-end, a Staccato, and a Cabot for the next 3 years. Sooner or later, you might buy one of those. You might start saving up and figure out what you could sell to get one of those top-end guns because they're really great to shoot. And again, I have a stable of about 20 dudes, and I'm going to have more because I'm picking up new ranges in New Jersey that want me there. They go, you know what? I'm getting one of those. I went to your event and I saw it and I shot it and I liked it and I bought it. I've watched it. I've watched the conversations happen. I had the guys buy triggers because they tried to trigger for the first time at our event. I had them buy rifles because they shot them for the first time. Why can't I extend that to others? So my whole thing is, yeah, I agree with you. Going to ranges and renting guns is a smart move, especially I did it. I did it back in the day in Virginia. They allowed you to get a box of ammo and you could rent a gun. And I don't think they just kept hitting you for the price. You could swap out. So I got a box of 38s. I tried out a couple of different revolvers from a couple of different manufacturers. I got some 9. I tried out the Glock 17. I tried the P226. Glock 17, P226, and the Beretta, 96? I tried all those guns out and decided I hated them. And I purchased a 1911, 45 ACP.
A 1911 from the CMP would I probably consider a 1911 if it was from something like that. That would be pretty neat. Something with some history to it. And I'm guessing, were they from Korea or Philippines? But they're from somewhere that is probably why.
What, the CMPs? Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember. I remember it was during Obama, I think, that he was. Am I thinking of that with the carbines?
The carbines. The carbines are in Korea, and he wouldn't get them. He wouldn't allow them into the country.
Yeah, he kind of accepted them somewhere, and then they work through with what's his face?
Because he's a moron.
All right. So Woods had asked earlier, and I moved the thing already. Woods had asked earlier about thoughts on the Stogier. Are they the best Turkish shotguns? I don't know. Do you like Stoger? Have you shot?
I've heard of Stoger. I've never ran a Stoger. Right now, one of the shotguns a friend of mine tells me about is one of the knockoff Turkish shotguns, a knockoff version of the Benelli M2 or M4. I forget which one it is. He said that's a really good one. Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at, I typed in essentially the thing. I typed in that question to the internet, and it came up with a forum called Shotgun World. What do you know? And from back in the day, back in the olden days of 2008, somebody, I don't know, I think this Wait, does this thing upvote? No. Okay, it was just happened to be uh, the third. Okay, I thought this was upvoted to be the third most popular answer. It's just that happens to be the third answer to that similar question that somebody asked back in 2008. And
Mm-hmm.
it seems like this person knows what they're talking about just because they're going on, and it sounds like they know what they're talking about. And they say that the Stoger group is an example they use of why Turkey is in transition. This is back in 2008. That the Stogers made in Istanbul, they threw out, or made in Istanbul, and in 2007 they threw out old tooling and and brought in CAD systems, so computer aided stuff. And now they
Mm-hmm.
make parts for Benelli, Beretta, and Franchi, whatever, the spas people, and that their quality has improved greatly. Then it talks about the Brazilian made Stogers. So
Mm-hmm.
there's Stogers made in different countries, it sounds like. So some of these brands outsource their production, and you know, people who buy the guns aren't, they're able to read, so they can tell that some guns are from here and some guns are from there, and they can compare them. And they're saying that it's difficult to tell the difference between them, I guess, um, because of their, change in quality or whatever. But it says that they get this reputation because for a long time they did have ill-fitting guns and stuff. And this is interesting. It says profit point contracts, and then it goes on and on. So I think that's probably something that um, you're going to get a bad rap when, just like China or something, when you're a country or a company or a manufacturer who's willing to um, work with the buyer instead of just
Mm-hmm.
saying, oops,
Give me those.
saying, here's what you're getting, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
like let's say Glock. Glock said, I came up with a thing. Here's what you're getting. Buy it or go somewhere else. But
Mm-hmm.
I think some of these companies go, hey, what do you need? And then what happens is the buyer then says, oh, I need a shotgun with these parameters that cost this much money. So, I need to be able to put them out the stores at this much money. So I need it to cost this much money. It costs this much money to import it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not like, hey, here's my quality gun I love. Can you afford it? It's, oh, yeah, I can build it for you. So when that happens, you end up with, oh, yeah, we built the gun you wanted. Like, that's the different than we sat down and engineered the best gun ever, and here it is. And
Yeah.
they went through decades of that, and they still do it all the time. Like, I don't know if you ever watch Crump when him and Rich do the let's drink every time there's a Turkish shotgun as they go through the ATF import lists. The they call that the Freedom of Information things, and gets the ATF import lists, and then
Okay.
they look for what, or they just look at and they kind of browse through there, and probably every fifth or seventh gun is like probably 2 out of every 10 almost is a Turkish shotgun of some sort, because
That's
like you could be a
hilarious.
hardware store in Iowa, fictitious Iowa, and you could
Mm-hmm.
um, have a hardware store, and you could say, or a gun shop, I guess, and say, I need 50 guns, and you could probably go to SHOT Show and find somebody to make 50 guns that say, so and so gun shop on them, or
Mm-hmm.
buy 200 of them and see if I can make a new something. And that's where I think they get the bad rap, when somebody's like hobbling together, like, oh yeah, we can take and modify some machinery and make that happen for you.
I think yeah, some of it's that. The name of this shotgun that I was talking about, this Benelli M4 clone, is an AKSA S4. That's the name of it, AKSA S4. I don't know if you say AXA or you just say the initials. But a friend of mine got it. He said his ran no problem. James Reeves ran his and said it fell apart and didn't work through his 500 round test of buckshot and whatnot. And that should make a difference to somebody that's going to try to run in competition. My friend Dave runs his in competition, hasn't had a problem with it. So it's an M4 clone from this company. They call it a Turcanelli because it's a clone of Benelli and it's from Turkey. Clever.
So, I worked at a shop, not like every day or anything, for 17 years, but the shop existed for 17 years, and I probably went in there like 15 minutes after they opened because I already owned the website that they built the shop and named it. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh, either this is going to work or it ain't. And it worked out perfectly because he wasn't even interested in the web. So I had his website and he was like, yeah, do my website. So I did the website for him. And, we had a great relationship for 17 years while the shop existed. And, um, and I'm on the FFL or whatever. And, I worked in the shop here and there. So I've been around the gun shop quite a bit. And this is a shop with 400 to 1,000 guns at a time, which is like a medium-sized gun shop. It's not a tiny shop, but it's definitely not a giant gun shop or anything. So this is, and it's all guns. Bob didn't have like a accessory store. Like we had to force him to have just cleaning kits and stuff. Like he just like having guns. He really like having used guns and just having a lot of different kind of guns. So anyway, I've seen a lot of guns, and my problem is that I just don't like shotguns that much. So every time a shotgun would come in, I'd be like, okay, whatever. So I just never spent much of my brain power. I always say, I only got X amount of brain power. And with cowboy guns and modern stuff and the stuff I like, there's just a lot of other guns. Like every sport gun that came in, I could care less. Like I couldn't pay attention to it. Every old gun that I don't like I couldn't pay attention to it. But like cowboy guns and stuff, I like struggle just to keep up with the cowboy guns. You know how many cowboy revolvers there are? And I'm talking just size revolvers. Like not even, and we didn't get hardly any in, but like I think of them as like the poker guns, the cool looking stuff, which I really like rule over all those when they. But the thing is, those might as well have made it was like 50 at a time, 60 at a time. I don't think anybody could keep track of them. There's probably people that spend a good amount of time trying to keep up with most of them. But holy moly, like so anyway, I'm just saying, like, it's not that I'm a jerk that I just hate guns. It's just that I was swimming in guns for a long, and it's just I only got so much brain power. So shotguns, unless it was like a really, really interesting old shotgun, I probably didn't even pay 2 cents to it. Unless it was, I shouldn't say that. Like we'd see like Wells Fargo guns come in or something. It might be like is it a Model 12, the Slam Fire? The ones that were for like World War One. I think some of those said Wells Fargo. Like that's my style shotgun. Like I'll take a 1930 shotgun that they used to take out bad, the gangs or something. That'd be neat. But I'm not going to buy it. I'll look at it and go, oh, that's cool. But and then if somebody brought in like an old cowboy shotgun, oh, that's cool. Like I've looked at some out of museums and stuff. I always had the chance to, but I never went. Oh, I wish I owned this. So anyway,
See, I've been a dude that's 100% horsepower, blowing into all of them. You show it to me, and I'm looking at it. Whether it's Giovaldi freaking air rifle, you know what I mean? That Lewis and Clark took on their expedition. I'm looking at it. I want to shoot it, and I want to check it out. Black powder, I want to check it out. Lever actions, want to check it out. Pumps, semi-autos. Yeah, show me. Let's do this. So I'm that guy, and I think I think working in the gun shop would ruin it. Like I worked in a strip club. Like before I ever walked in the strip club as a customer or as a patron, I worked there. So I have zero appreciation for a strip club. Like, leave me alone. I don't care. I'd rather go to the gun shop.
Yeah, seriously, because like what those ladies are talking about. I know what you're talking about. Like you go in the back side and you know them, and you're like, oh man, I feel sorry for these chicks. Like half of them I feel sorry for, the other ones you don't. But
I'm like, this is just a toxic environment, and I don't want anything to do with it. So
nobody's coming here to be cured.
yeah, there's just nothing. There's no epiphany. There's no greatness that will happen here. I want out. So if I worked in a gun shop, I think it would be just overwhelming. It won't be the place I want to go to visit and soak in the goodness. It would be, I got to catalog 45 of these, and they're from 13 different manufacturers, and I could care less. But meanwhile, I skip in there on my day and go, man, they just got 40 new shotguns in from 13 different manufacturers. I can't wait to fondle every one of them. Because I actually did that at Saco over here in PA, right across the border from Jersey. And they have A5s, right? The Browning A5 shotgun. And then they have the Belgian version of it because FN made them too. And I'm checking them out and I'm looking at the barrel lengths because they're friggin' awesome guns. from back in the day and easy to screw it up, but they were the pinnacle of semi-automatic shotguns in the early 1900s. And me, I like the idea, or in the earlier 1900s. And I just like the idea of how cool that is, the stories that these particular guns may or may not have behind them. Because understanding, like England and a lot of other places, those guns that were produced were drafted into the war effort. Like if you had a boomstick at home, they asked you to turn them in, or at least they went to you on duty, even if you're past the age of serving. You might have served at Home Guard, or one of those people that looked out for pilots parachuting or stuff like that, or they confiscated your stuff. Your government did. So I think that stuff is interesting to me. The story behind the guns. I got into this. My first gun purchases were surplus guns. So again, stories behind it meant something. And now, as you get further and further, well, different guns mean different things. Beretta 92s. It's a service pistol from multiple countries, not just America. You check out the, SIG P10, 210. It's one of the most expensive service pistols ever made. And I just shot the target version of that the other weekend. And I'm at 15 yards just punching one hole. I don't mean a cluster. I mean one hole. Like I could have played dot torture at 15 yards with this thing and never lost. So all guns are interesting to me. From black powder.
Okay, just for a second.
Go ahead.
I talked about this. And for me, it's because they have a different sound, but what you're talking about, where you get a gun, whatever the reason, the line's right, you have the ammo is perfect, whatever. Do that, you shoot, that. Usually it's the gun has something, so that's going to be fairly. You're going to have a good day and put them up. But even on that gun's going to be pretty accurate. Go to some, whatever, just pick some gun out of, or the expensive, crude one. They're going to be different guns, right? Like they're going to be different. Just like a, I don't know, fancy car. I don't know, Rolls something is going to be different than like a Model T or something. But then you pick like the Toyota, and it's going to be way nicer than a Model T, and it's not going to be anywhere near as like it's fancy as the Rolls Royce, but it's still going to drive quiet. It's still going to have good responsive handling. It's going to have probably better gas mileage. Right. So I think that's part, I was just going to say that's something when you're experiencing guns, if you haven't shot a bunch of them, that's another factor to them. Like there's the, okay, I want to ride a Harley or I want to ride an Enduro or whatever. But when you're riding them, like I use the motorcycle analogies because it's just easy to picture, I think. But I think that car analogy is a bit better because a gun can be comfortable. Like a gun can be easier to shoot than another gun. And we talk about it all the time, but if you only shoot like 3 9mm CCW guns, good luck trying to shoot those well. It's possible to shoot a 9mm compact gun good, but that's like saying it's possible to take a Harley, out on the dirt. Like, yeah, you can do it. You might get stuck every once in a while. You can probably figure out how to not get stuck, but it's always going to be clunky and you're never going to jump a jump like you can with a BMX bike or whatever. And now vice versa, you can take a BMX on the street anytime you want, but you're never going to be comfortable in it. You're never going to just easily drive it. You're always going to have to be sitting upright and you're always going to have to be worried about it. So it's the same kind of thing in a car. Like you can take a Rolls Royce anywhere you want, but it's always going to be comfortable. But sometimes you want to be comfortable. Sometimes you need to take a car, off-road or whatever. And in that case, you want it to have shocks and all that. So I think that's just one of those things, as you were talking about a gun being real easy to shoot or whatever, or, that gun happened to be very accurate. That's one of those things too. Like, shoot $1,000 gun. It doesn't make it accurate, but it might make the parts and everything just so much more. I don't know if the word luxurious is right, but when you shoot a gun with 73 parts that are engineered and working perfectly, it's different than shooting a gun with 14 parts that are kind of crude so that it never breaks. They're just, they're clunky, springy versus smooth and refined, right?
100%. And you can tell the difference between them. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I love the gun community is full of different kind of people, and gun guys that appreciate firearms is kind of rare. I'm finding like some of the bigger names guys might be the gun, that type of gun guy. But a lot of the others are tactical guys, and truthfully, their entire repertoire is made of two types of guns: a striker-fired polymer 9 millimeter pistol and some form of AR, and that's it. Anything else is like a monkey watching a monkey hump a bowling ball to them. They have no idea what to do with the thing. They don't appreciate it because their whole world is the tactical gun thing. So yeah, you're not going to see them doing a revolver review, or if you do, you'll hear them saying, oh, FUD gun, and they're like disrespecting it. And I mean, I don't have to take up for freaking guns, firearms manufacturers, or anything else, but I'm like, you're just showing your ignorance about the gun, bro. Just go ahead and stick to doing your little striker fire thing. You're just doing this for freaking views. You're not doing it because you like it. And I can tell by watching it. You know what I mean?
Dude, I didn't want to interrupt you, but no, that's profound because I don't know if it's been said. It might have been said before, but you hit it. I think right in the dot right there, or right in the 10 ring, I guess for us.
Mm-hmm.
That yeah, they have a tool and they're really good at using that tool. It's like maybe a carpenter who's like really good at, I don't know, I'm just picking a job on a thin air paintbrush, a paintbrush for a painter or something. And they're really good. They know what they're doing and they have a really good tool to do it. But then they go home and never paint, or they go home and never swing a hammer, which you're allowed to do.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to like everything. But yeah, just because someone has an opinion about a gun or whatever, and they're like, oh, this precision equipment, I dig it, it's the best one and whatever. Yeah, who cares? If that's the only gun they like, then yeah, you got to take that as well. It's
Yeah.
true. And they're going to like weird ass crazy shit because they only give a shit about the result. They don't care if the company squashes Second Amendment rights. They don't care if the
Mm-hmm.
company is in another country. They don't care if the company just copied off of their neighbors, and did, waited for everybody else to do everything right and then jumped in at the last second with all the right answers. And, bingo, I'm here to market. Instead of having to suffer like everyone else did doing R&D and, fluctuations in the economy and in the interest in guns and everything, I'm just going to pop up here at the last minute and import everything that's the right answers. And because a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of people came along and they're only looking for the right answers, they don't want to hear about the history or anything else. Like no appreciation. You don't have to. There's no law, but that's definitely a factor. Or at least
Yep.
it's a way to summarize the situation. I guess it's probably the factor with cars and with everything else out there, computers, even video games. I don't know, but for guns, I
And
think if anybody's ever mentioned that before, that definitely hits
and
them.
and that affects me actually wanting to work with those companies because they don't care about the Second Amendment. They care about moving product. They don't care about the fight here. And I'm like, you know what? People can see that, and I don't think I would or need to work with you. And I just walk around them. Sorry, but they might have a good handgun. They might have a good rifle, but there are lots of good handguns and good rifles out there. And I just go with those companies that actually get in the fight and support the work. So that might actually, if you don't see me at certain people's booths or SHOT Show, there's a reason for that.
Okay, well,
One
that's
of the
kind of
good,
cool. We went for 90 minutes or something. We hit a couple of the
nice.
questions. Thanks to Woods for that. But there's a good one here from New York Outcast. I figure, well, it takes however long. I don't know how much time you got anyway. I didn't really ask. But this is
Yeah,
a
I got another hour.
topical, whatever. Okay, cool. This one hopefully won't take the whole thing, but we got plenty of time to dig into it then. So
Yeah.
I have a poll going right now. And if I can find the my own channel to click on my own button here. I just listed the Saturday Night Mouse Party as the reference from this show, or the show will point you over to the Mouse Party, only because Suicide Prevention Saturday has not yet posted. But of course, we do this show on Saturdays in a big way as a warm up show for Burke Cheney's show, Suicide Prevention Saturday. And as soon as she posts that, I'll edit it. But um, that made me think I have a poll going over on the channel, on the main channel. So I broadcast this. Oh, I forgot again. I broadcast this onto the Daily Gun Show channel on YouTube, as well as the big channel over here, but then I also broadcast on the X, what used to be, the kids used to call it Twitter back in the 1900s or back in the 2000s.
Yeah, right.
Two aughts. I don't know what do the kids call in the olden days now? But
Oh, yeah, the late 1900s, the
and
turn of the century.
before the turn of the century, that was called Twitter, and now it's called the X. But anyway, so we're on all these, but on the main channel, it's got a poll going. What's the most important news of 2024? Is it the bad and some only little bit of, but mostly bad gun laws? Is it SHOT Show? Everybody loves to hate SHOT Show. Is it Wayne LaPierre leaving the NRA, or is it the election year? Because this is an election year. So right now it's 40% to 40% bookends. The new and bad gun laws, or sorry, the new bad and good gun laws is tied with it being an election year. Then Wayne LaPierre's news with the NRA, and somehow SHOT Show is least important from everybody's poll data here. But I got to go pee really bad. So Tim, if you don't mind taking it away for a second here, and
Yeah, no problem.
I'll be able to hear. But what's your opinion on with what's going on with Wayne?
All right, here's the thing. NRA ILA has supported diversity shoots from the very beginning. I mean, like from the second diversity shoot in 2015, I got introduced to their rep, and he helped us out. He got me bags for my swag giveaways. He started giving me stuff. He started coming by and actually answering questions, no matter how uncomfortable they were, about what the NRA is doing in the state of New Jersey and what the NRA is doing. But understand, NRA ILA and NRA are two different entities. But those guys and ladies are troopers that work with NRA ILA because they work with us. They come to the state. They work with Second Amendment organizations. They go to the gun stores. They do all of that. So my feelings about NRA ILA is they're putting in the work. They got their pay cut. They stopped getting benefits. The guys that introduced me to NRA ILA that work there all had to quit because they cut their hours. They wouldn't refund them for money from hotels, gas money. Excuse me, they didn't cut their hours. They increased their hours and refused to pay them overtime. They took the brunt of the hit when the NRA went through their rough time with this whole Wayne LaPierre thing. They paid the price while he kept his job. I personally feel the NRA gave loyalty to this dude because he created his own empire in the 70s. And he created it so he was insulated and was able to keep his job. I've talked to people that were on the NRA board that are no longer on the NRA board, and I heard some behind the scenes things from those people that said when they found out what was actually going on behind the curtain, they couldn't leave the NRA soon enough. Like the building was on fire, everything they were doing wrong, including somehow still being headquartered in New York State. New York State has not been pro-gun in my lifetime. Why would they still be there? Why wouldn't they move? Now they want to be in Texas, which I still think is a dumb move because Texas is becoming a purple state. It's like they're not that bright. You go to a red state if you want to make a difference. You want a red state if you want to be safer. So in my opinion, the NRA has been making a lot of bad calls. He created a board, Wayne LaPierre created a board that was loyal to him and not loyal to the Second Amendment. And that was a problem. And if you want to hear about a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, Gangster Capitalism is the name of the podcast. And they did a 6-part series that's 100% worth listening to if you're a Second Amendment advocate, if you want to find out what actually happened behind the scenes, if you want to find out the relationship that NRA had with their ad company, the incestuous relationship that the NRA had with their ad company, you really need to check it out and you'll find out why we're in the predicament we are in now. Having Wayne step down, now I've just been headline grazing. I've only listened to 2 people that were talking about it. He had a $17 million golden parachute to leave. And now, just according to something I glanced, they settled for $100,000 for one of the executives has to pay to the state of New York, because it's not like this case is. He stepped down when the case went to trial. I think it's a civil trial in New York State, and all of a sudden Wayne steps down. Then why didn't you step down a year ago or 2 years ago? Or when Letitia James said she was going after the NRA because of the things you've done, why didn't you step down then? You know you're just as guilty. You know the things they did. Whatever, man. My opinion of Wayne LaPierre is low because he put himself before, in my opinion, he put himself before the needs of the organization that is fighting for our rights. And he created a board that thought like him. When they were actually trying to make a change and they were bringing in young minds and young people that actually were no compromise Second Amendment advocates, they shut them down. I was at the NRA convention when John Patton had his first The Gun Collective thing, but they were all trying to get votes for Adam Kraut. And I was in the room when the NRA guy came in and shut him down and told him to stop campaigning for their friend. I was there. You can campaign for anybody you want. That was the whole event, and they didn't want these new people screwing things up and have Adam Kraut come in as one of the members of NRA board of directors. So my hope right now is with this, they don't stop with just the cleanup of LaPierre. I hope they go after the coattails, the infestation of Wayne sycophants that he left behind on the board. I think they got to get rid of them too. And I think the NRA actually has to start supporting not only the lawsuits, but they need to reach out and start supporting Second Amendment advocacy groups that actually putting in the work. And yeah, I'm talking about the diversity shoot, but I'm also talking about Black Guns Matter with Maj. They did not support Maj. They tried to steal what he did and gave it to Coleon, and Coleon tried to do a "we got advocacy at home" version of what Maj is doing, and it didn't really work because that wasn't Coleon's mission, and they weren't willing to dedicate the time and the passion that Maj dedicates to going into the inner city, introducing people to firearms safety, firearms advocacy, firearms laws, CCW requirements in their city. Coleon was going to put that amount of time in because that wasn't his passion, and neither the NRA nor their ad agency was really wanting to do that. They wanted to get the bump in popularity. They wanted to get people in different communities to watch Coleon Noir stuff, but they weren't really interested in advocacy. And I think we need to clear all those people out that thought that was a good idea. And we have board members that are actually interested in the advocacy part of the Second Amendment and increasing that with the NRA. Now, I have board members, I have friends that are actual board members of the NRA that are advocates and have decades of work of fighting behind them. Those are the people that actually need to be in positions where they can make a difference and make things happen. So I believe it's a good thing Wayne stepped down, but truthfully, in my opinion, that's just the beginning. They need to clear out all those old school Wayne puppets. They need to go. Every single one of them. Bye. We need to bring in people that are 100% interested in real advocacy and supporting advocacy around the country. There is no reason the NRA hasn't been actually, the NRA itself hasn't been actively supporting the work I do. That's ridiculous because they know about it. They called me every Thursday before the NRA convention kicks off. They have an NRA dinner, an advocacy dinner, where they have organizations that are doing work across the country with minorities, with our LGBT community. They have this dinner and they invite us all to it. So they take pictures with us to show how diverse the NRA is. And then they don't talk to us for the rest of the year. Period. It's all for show. It's all to get in the NRA magazine. It's all to go on the NRA social media. Hey, look, here's a picture of me with a fill in the blank. We really care about your community. And they do nothing. So that was their history, and I really want them to change it because the NRA is still the 900-pound gorilla in the room. They still far outstrip every Second Amendment organization in the country for the number of members they have. But the potential of the NRA, and they're going to have to do something big. They can't just get rid of this one Skeletor looking mofo. They need to clean house. They need to bring in somebody that looks like the optic has to be there, but the advocacy has to be there too. It can't be just about looks. It can't be just about, oh, we got a black, we got a woman, we got an LGBT. No, 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 no. We need to find people putting in the work that are passionate about it and that's going to hold their nose to the grindstone, hold their balls to the fire, whatever you want to call it. 2024 needs to be about the NRA cleaning house and putting their foot in it across the country to show their millions of supporters they've changed. And they're 100% invested in fighting for our rights for real, not just taking high profile cases in certain states. Because you don't have to take every case, but you can support the fight in other states. You can promote, if you have millions of followers, if you have millions of members, if you're sending out those emails and having them annoying damn people call me every month talking about the NRA, why can't you promote somebody who's doing work in Louisiana? Why can't you promote someone who's doing work in Georgia in that phone call, in that email? They don't. Ask yourself, how come social media is free, but NRA has never promoted anybody that was an NRA ever on their social media? That's a problem. That's free, and they haven't done it. They have 2.3 million members, and you don't see one post about anybody doing any work anywhere in the country besides NRA. That's got to change. If they really want to be a voice for Second Amendment advocacy, then give Second Amendment advocates that are doing the work a voice. That's all I'm saying. So that's my opinion on Wayne. That's my opinion on the NRA and how they can improve. I really hope they do. I was never one of the burn the NRA down, but I was one of the NRA gets no more support until they get rid of Wayne LaPierre. He has to go. Even if he did everything above board and didn't do anything wrong in the civil trial false fat on his face, he was doing more harm than good staying in the job. And truthfully, again, the NRA really wasn't reaching out to help others in the fight. My advice to you, even now, even after Wayne stepped down, if you're asking, hey, I'm thinking about being a life member of the NRA and dropping $700 to be a life member, I'd say hold off. I say if you want to join this year, do it. If you want to join for 5 years, go ahead, kick them $100. Join for 5 years, but in that 5 years, keep a close eye. But that other $600, join CNJFO here in Jersey. You don't need to be living in this state to actually send them their money. You can become a life member for them for $100. Send money to places that are in the fight. Join those Second Amendment organizations locally. Join your local one and keep your eye on them and make sure they stay in the fight. They can use your money to fight stuff in your state and in your county level. Why not do that? Because unless the case is big enough, big organizations like NRA, like FPC, like gun owners, they go for the bigger cases to make the bigger splashes, to hopefully get the Supreme Court and set precedent. And that's great. But that ain't helping you if your state all of a sudden restricts you to 10-round magazines. But if you can fight it in your state and they can take an L, the anti-gun forces take a loss in your state, it never becomes law. You never put yourself at risk. You never have to figure out how to get rid of your 30-round magazines because now they're illegal. You don't have to go through any of that if you donate to your local Second Amendment organization, because that's the fight they're going to fight. Be a member of the larger national organizations if you want to, but it's a local fight. Remember, all politics are local. All politics are local, and that's where you need to put your money, I think, and your effort. I mean, if you want a cooler that says NRA on it, just buy one in a can of spray paint. spray it on the side of your igloo cooler, and call it a day. I don't think they deserve a lifetime at this point. At this point, I'm like, if you want to join the NRA, do a 1 year or a 5 year, and keep your eye on them and see if they actually earn your trust and earn your money. Don't just give it to them. But I don't say F the NRA and I hope they go under. No, not at all.
So like this, there's that end, right? There's the people, because I put out a poll on the channel to see what people think of the NRA. Kind of, do you still like them? Do you like them now that this happened, or do you still hate them? Because I figure you got to be one of those. I guess you could possibly be I don't care, but there's not many people that don't care, so I didn't even bother to ask that. But most people hate the NRA still. So in other words, most people side with Bloomberg. So there's that side. Like, I also want to, me and Bloomberg want to see the NRA die, right? So I guess you're in the middle because I'm going to say in the middle. You have a different opinion. Maybe it's a triangle. It's not like there's a left and a right in the middle. There's a different opinions and they exist in the world. So there's a triangle and three different perspectives to look at this. I've definitely, it's only happened a little while ago, but essentially most of the consensus is what you're talking about, or the points that you brought up there. I mean, or it's not your personal experience, but the consensus is that, whatever, either wait and see or, but it's not one person didn't change my mind or whatever. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. We got the NRA, and it is 212 million. I just went and looked while you were talking, and have two articles. One that's recent from this week. That's from a political thing, and it says that the organization is that right? Got the numbers? Yeah, is 213 million last year, essentially, which is down from what it had been, 500 million in the heyday. So in the heyday, when it's 500 million, they were spending a bunch of money. Okay, so put it in perspective. I do this all the time, but the other organizations are making less than 10. So that 180 is not advertising fees. Everybody likes to act like they're doing nothing but having extravagant parties and shit. But when you're at a massive scale, those extravagant parties that probably don't look that big a deal when they're compared to the big thing. But another way to look at this is the lawsuits and all the shit that everybody complains about was $60,000 over 3 years. So essentially $20 million a year. So yeah, that's a lot of money compared to us, but compared to 220, that's 10%. So that's $180 million worth of stuff being done. That's NRA work being done. And everybody wants to just ignore that, take that for granted. I mean, you remove that from the environment, and what is it? That's like a bunch of people going, I don't like the grass, and the grass is bothering me, and I don't like the grass. Get rid of all plants. We're sick of plants. I hate the grass. Get rid of all plants. And now there's no trees and food anymore. You know what I mean? Like, are we paying attention to the big picture here? And I'm not trying to justify nothing. I'm just saying it's real easy to go, one company that wants my $30 is telling me that they're just as good as the other one. That's essentially most of our messaging is coming from people who want your $30 because their organization is so much different. So this one organization does $180 million because I'm taking out the bullshit that that they're spending on nuisance. So yeah, they've got bad apples and they have to deal with the bad apples. They're dealing with $60 million over 3 years. That's a real number, not a made up number or whatever. That's off of some news article. So again, that's a shit ton of money, but compared to the 180, what do we got to replace that? You take all of our organizations together and they don't pile up to be $40 million. So, we care so much, we're going to take our money elsewhere. No, you don't. You take $40 million and shove it over there. But the thing is, spoiler alert, they were already making 80% of that 2 months ago, or 2 years ago, whatever, before NRA stuff. So in reality, most of us don't give $20 to the NRA and then sit down. Most of us give $20 here, $20 here, $20 here, $20 here. And when the NRA started fucking around, we withdrew our $30 from the NRA, and a whole shit ton of fair weather gun owners withdrew their money. And now the NRA is feeling it financially. but they're still taking care of fucking $180 million worth of business. So as soon as somebody wants to show me some financial records where that's all being squandered, then you are just talking shit, because it's $180 million. They're not squandering that. That is ranges and shooting sports and hunting. And it's all the stuff that people take for granted that the NRA is doing, or that creates the groundwork so that somebody else, they always go, oh, the NRA is taking advantage. I know what Smeggy's talking about when he says, when they go around saying NRA constitutional carry. That rubs me three kinds of wrong the other way, rubs me the wrong way also. However, when, somebody little tiny organization comes along and says, we did this, like, yeah, you're standing on the foundation that the NRA poured. Yeah, you came along and painted it nicely. Thank you. But you know what? You didn't pour the foundation. You didn't come up with the idea of how to pour foundations. You didn't, through hard work and effort over decades, come up with how to pour foundations. But yeah, you decorated that foundation that somebody else left there. And I'm congratulating you on that. Like, thank you. But you know what I mean? Like, we got to realize that we're not in this together, or that we are in this together, that this isn't like a $6 million organizations. And now those are more like, I shouldn't say million, we have like $5-10 million organizations that might be around 20 million at this point. And we have one $200 million organization that swole up to 500 million. And no one is willing to put this effort up. And I'm just ranting here just to be an alternative point of view. But like I say, this other perspective, because I refuse to acknowledge that the NRA is, I refuse to suggest that the NRA is just this entity. It's like I don't know what to call it. It's like the tree that's providing all the fruit and the shelter and the wood and the fire. It's like this thing that we're all so accustomed to, that we're all so used to, that we say, oh yeah, get rid of it. We don't care, because we're only looking at the one guy. We're looking at its face. We're not looking at the rest of the thing that exists. And I'd be all down if we were like comfortably able to take care of all the infrastructure that it provides, but we're not. And it's foolish. And why are we waiting to watch it burn? Why is the community seem to be waiting to watch it burn? Because there's a couple organizations that want your $30 that are, handing out matches and sticks and signs that say "make it burn." But in reality, it's a membership organization. I mean, what the hell where in the world would we have, like, name a situation where you're going to have 2 or 3 people spoil the entire 180 million organization, and you're going to go throw the 180 million organization away? Those 12 people are so much powerfuler than me that just throw the whole fucking thing away. It's too difficult. Like, this just seems like such a easy ass challenge to take back. And then once we got it, we got the fucking battleship back again. So I guess I always get back to that, but I know I'm going all over the place on this one, I guess. But I don't see it as quite as simple as wait and see, or they had it coming. That he was the one doing all this, or that, I agree with what you said there, that he created the board and all that. Let's go back to the 90s, and I'll say this one again too. 1995, the year after the assault weapons ban, all the politicians left office, and they figured out that guns were untouchable. Oh no, the NRA brought the 1968. The NRA wanted the NFA. The NRA wanted the Hughes Amendment. The NRA was standing there while those things happened, yes. And the NRA is a shit ton of people. It's a membership organization with a leader or two and a shit ton of members, right? And they were standing around virtually at every single thing that happened. So all this like bullshit about, oh, they wanted all these things to happen. Well, then did they also get credit for removing everyone from office in 1995 and taking guns off the table until 2013? Because that's pretty much what happened. Tell me how that didn't happen. Tell me how the sunset didn't happen without a fucking news article, because they were all the antis were tail between the legs because they couldn't do shit about it. Was that GOA? Was that No Compromise GOA? Was that Second Amendment Foundation's Gun Rights Policy Conference? Shutting up every politician in 2014 when they'd rather be bragging about how we can't have machine guns because, they've so effectively banned them for 10 years. I mean, again, we're very selective in our history here, or in our remembering of this. And then who was running the NRA through that? This one dude is running the NRA through that. There's a whole period of time in the 80s that no one wants to remember because they either weren't alive and nobody wants to talk about it. But in the 80s, you had books and you had some radio. But before Rush Limbaugh, there was Martin Downey Jr. and the Oprah Show and Maury Povich right? There was talk shows. Like that's why The View exists, because there used to be talk shows. And in those days, that's when Wayne LaPierre did his thing. Like that's when Wayne LaPierre was the single person that was the focus. And at the time, that was what allowed that period of time to exist. Was it strategized? Did he like figure that all out? I don't know. I doubt it. I think he was just there and all that happened. But that's why he has all that money. That's why he's making all that money, because he did the job of like a big time CEO back in the day. Like before the internet age, like, the way that business was
Okay.
done, lobbyists had to hang out and shit. Lobbyists had to take each other on yachts and shit. Like, you make fun of the 70s carpet and shit, but it's because they didn't have computers. They were doing different things. Their carpet mattered in a different way than it does today. They didn't just have instant carpet all over the world. Somebody with big, thick orange carpet was the biggest deal in town. Nobody had that. Nowadays, you can have whatever carpet you want, so it seems silly. But I'm just saying, like, that's why Wayne LaPierre exists, because there was a time when he did something that nobody else was fucking doing. And everybody wants to ignore that period of time, but he's just the old guy living in this office and nobody's been challenging him. And here's the problem. Instead of a membership organization getting together and doing something about it, they fleed. There's like a bunch of Californians. Well, I don't like it here anymore. I'm leaving. I don't like it in here anymore. I'm leaving. Or what do you call them? Ex-Californians, I guess. The
Well,
people.
I don't think,
I
I
don't
don't
like
believe
them
that.
here. I'm not going to fight them. I'm going to leave them.
Well, my issue is this, and again, I said it. A lot of the voices you have, one, weren't alive then. They don't know about the fight for the last 10 years. I mean, look at your favorite or the loudest mouths in GunTube, because this is what a lot of people going by. GunTube, their favorite GunTubers, and their GunTuber social media. Most of those people weren't even in this back then. They know nothing. A lot of them weren't even gun guys. They don't know shit. Sorry, but I'm putting it out there. Two, they're getting checks from these other companies to promote membership to these other companies. I'll have to point them out to you. All you have to do is go back in their timeline and look at videos prior to Pete Brownell's joining NRA as being the NRA president. You will see and hear nothing about these people talking about the NRA, because it used to be they would say it's bad for my videos. No one wants to hear it. I get low view count, until they started getting checks from Pete Brownells and the NRA to talk about Second Amendment advocacy. Then all of a sudden, money was in it, and they talked about it. So, and I know some of these people, you know some of these people, you were there, you heard it.
They talked about it with the like NRA-backed constitutional carry. Again, NRA was standing there when constitutional carry happened.
Exactly. They take checks, bro. They take checks. I forgot what's the derogatory term people use for them. Grifters or something like that. Anyway, they get paid. They flap their gums because they're told they flap their gums. I don't personally like it, but I have to work. I work with some of these people, but I say what I say. And if they hear it, they hear it. I've done a lot of work with the help of regular dudes and people that run podcasts like you and have me on. I don't need to suckle up to bigger names because they haven't done. I'm on year 9. I'm on year 9 of doing this. I'll be on year 19 of doing this and never have to suckle up to any of these dudes to sell out. Sorry. You know what I mean? Sorry. I'm going to keep fighting the fight I am. And if I stay at the level I am and we do Jersey and we just start leaking all over the country, fine. It doesn't have to be a fast growth across the nation because I sold out to a gun tuber or a company. Some of these people weren't around. They don't know the history of any of this. And they're just repeating what they hear from a paid show. Oh, F the NRA. Well, again, NRA does a lot of things, and that's why I thought it was important. The NRA cut a lot of funding to a lot of good things they were doing, and I think it was stupid because they allowed themselves to be alienated because they weren't asking questions. Did you know the NRA had an app? You know the NRA had an app, right, on the phone?
Sure.
And you were able to talk to them, and they had across the country every multiple times a month, they were met in Cabela's and large gun stores to answer questions and to help out. NRA ILA did. And when I told people that's where you go if you want to know what the NRA is doing. My events, NRA ILA would show up anytime they were in the area because they would give them areas like one dude would be in charge of the entire Northeast. One guy. And when they started cutting back, they moved his boundaries to he's taking care of the Northeast all the way to the Mississippi. How do you do a quarter of the country as one dude? And that's what they cut back on when they should have increased that, when they should have doubled down and told people the work they're doing. They handled this entire emergency in a really dumb way.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you before. I'll interrupt you now, though. But that,
Go ahead.
what was the name of that podcast you just mentioned a while back?
Gangster Capitalism.
Yeah, I listened to that one after you mentioned it a long time ago. It was a couple years ago, I think. But definitely, it was like a couple of episodes or something. No, it's like 8 episodes.
It was 6.
It takes a
It was
little
six,
while.
Yeah.
But it's worth listening to. It is a pretty good run through of the. I'm going to call it one aspect. I think there's still a lot of people that just, they look at the bad. I'm not saying when the house is on fire, the house is on fire. I ain't trying to say the house ain't on fire. I'm just trying to say one aspect, one way to look at it is, okay, we're going to lose the whole house. Another way is to say, let's put the fire out and then salvage what we can. But, there are people that go, oh, if this is old enough house, fire's the best thing to do. Gut it, get rid of it. We got to start over anyway. I'm just saying, show me an example of where we built anything anywhere near this scale so that I'm comfortable that we got the ability to rebuild it. That's what we'll do is we'll take a $212 million thing down and we'll replace it with a $2 million thing and scrutinize it and bitch at it and be, sarcastic. Oh, see, you didn't make your $200 million back. Like, okay, you won a little sarcastic battle on the internet, but where's our infrastructure that we're going to lose? And that's where, if I can take a second here to continue my other side of my rant, I kind of tangent off there. But the other big thing that I don't see anyone talking about, and again, it's only been a few days, so somebody's going to listen to this and steal it, hopefully, and then talk about it. But again, the NRA giant battleship, I like to say aircraft carrier, right?
Aircraft carrier, yeah.
Because they're big and because they can't do nothing on their own and because they need a lot of supplies, but also because they can just pull up along shore and then everybody's scared shitless and they leave. Its deterrent factor is massive.
Yep.
But also they launch other little things off. Like they launch things when necessary. New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. No one wants to say New York State Rifle and Pistol Association because one, they're lazy, or two, the NRA is the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, right? They don't want to give that organization credit. So if they want your $30 and they're saying Bruin, are they 2A and they're too lazy to say New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, the winners? Every other thing in this country, we say the winner of the lawsuit. This time we say Bruin. That is not accidental. There's nothing fucking accidental in 2024. So anyhow, so we've got this organization. Where was I getting at? Oh, we got this organization, and there are aircraft carrier, but it's also, when you think of the Navy, you think of a bunch of aircraft carriers and a bunch of submarines, probably, and then maybe you think of some airplanes and then some other boats. But seriously, you think of the biggest things when you're thinking of, when you start, first concept of an entity, and that's where. Again, I'm going back to what I said before. That's where Wayne even gets to think his britches are so big, because he successfully lobbied at a time when there was nobody else doing it, and he was successful at it. And that's back when you had to schmooze and, go hang out with people and spend a bunch of money. It was just the way things were done back in the day. You can hate it all you want. Hate history hard, you know what I mean? Like, really hate history. Hate it more you want. But essentially, he's doing what he was doing. But what he did was he created this thing that takes a lot of hits. That aircraft carrier is going to attract a lot of the shots because it's the biggest target. It's the easiest thing to shoot at from shore, but it's not going to get very hurt with those 7.62 by 39 rounds it's taken. It's not going to get very hurt with those RPG rounds it takes. Every once in a while they're going to shoot a cannon at it, and it might take a hit or two, but it's probably going to be dented. It's probably going to keep doing its thing. It's probably going to keep supporting other. Those fighters are going to go off and keep supporting ground battles that are happening all over the peninsula, right? Like people don't they take for granted what the aircraft carrier provides. So anyway, that angle of it, right? We got this guy stepping down, and now we have the gun community. Okay, what are we doing? Are we going? Okay, we took a black guy,
Hey,
like
hold on a second. I gotta walk away.
in other words, I'll keep ranting here. Are we
All
gonna,
right.
as a gun community, kind of, say, okay, we took a black guy, that sucks, but NRA is still strong. We still got our support of the organization. The man's gone. The organization for the last decade or something, for a 100-year organization, had a wrong direction, but we're back on course now. What kind of difference that would be compared to we're all bickering and laughing and making memes and satisfied and well, I'm not going to do nothing until I see what happens. Even though it's a membership organization, I'm not going to be a member. I'm not going to be part of the thing. I'm just going to watch the thing and see if it adds up to my expectations. What impression does that give to the political strategists on the other side? Are we in a battle right now, or are we in our own little world and everything revolves around us? Are there people out there that want our rights and our property, and they'll do anything, including put fingers on wounds to get it? So if we're going to let ourselves be manipulated and upset when little petty shit like this happens, I mean, I don't know how to wake us up as a community to get past this, but I don't see many people thinking about how this looks from the outside, like how the antis are looking at this, or how the other strategists, because I think of the anti-politicians, but there's probably some financial people. We're susceptible as a community to grifters. Tony kind of alluded to it before. But there's a lot of people out there that are good at making money, and what they look for is areas of weakness. They look for pieces of society where there's an opportunity, and when we fracture and we are, we had a lot of people see $212 million on the table is what I'm getting at. There's a lot of potential for somebody to come in and, oh, you know what, you're disappointed in that. Let me give you the cure to that. And, if we're not, I don't want to say united, but if we're not aware, if we're not street savvy to this, we just waste a lot of time. Time we could be demanding a removal of the NFA. Let's get us to a point where we remove the unnecessary nanny rules so that people see once and for all how civil people can be without a bunch of nanny rules acting like they're keeping us civil. These nanny rules are only there to act like they keep us in line. They're not. We're civil people. We're not held in line because of a national law. We're held in line because we have morals and we don't hate each other. So removal of these laws would be a further indication that we don't need all these other bullshit laws either. Anyway, are you back, Mr. Lanton?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back. You're right, and it's
That was my
really
third. That was my third thing though. Like, how does this look from the PR from
Mhm.
like, the antis?
Well, my whole thing is stop being stupid. Stop believing some of these dudes are not knowing their history. It's annoying because how deeply do you look into, you're just trying to find out a 10 millimeter review. You know what I mean? Like that's all. And this is your dude. But I'm like, check your dude when he starts talking Second Amendment advocacy and what has your dude said or done prior? Because a lot of them is a whole lot of nothing. And I've not once, and this is what I've said from the beginning. I haven't changed my story with the NRA. That they weren't living up to their potential. They needed a foot in their butt, and they needed to get rid of Wayne. I mean, I can't stand in the middle of gun for hire range in Woodland Park, New Jersey, which is where I started the diversity shoot, where I started Second Amendment advocacy, working with those people there in the different Second Amendment organizations in Jersey. Now, Anthony Calandro is a board member of the NRA. Not only when he ran, but I helped promote it. I helped promote his run. I helped promote his election. And I asked people to vote for him, Adam Kraut. I tried to get him on the board. So I'm not going to stand up in the middle of that dude's place and say the NRA sucks and should be run to the ground. But I stood there and said exactly what I said on this show today, that the NRA has to prove itself, that the NRA has to get rid of Rain. I don't care if he's on the board. I'm saying what I have to say. And it didn't cost us our friendship because, again, I didn't say the NRA needed to be destroyed. But I said they needed to shift themselves because he's standing there too, and he's never seen the NRA come to one of my events. How do I hold one every 6 months at one time, and hold them twice a month in 2023, 2022, and nobody shows up from the NRA ever. The NSSF showed up, the NRA ILA showed up, local groups showed up, NRA never did. So when I say they need to do better, who's going to argue with me? When I say give them a 1-year trial and see if they live up to your expectations, I haven't changed my mind. Me, I join 5 at a time, 5 years at a time, and see what they do now, see what they do next. So with what's happening with Wayne stepping down, and it's time for me to renew my membership, I'm doing it for 5 years. They're on a trial. My rights come, to me, my rights are what have you done for me lately? And it's always going to be what have you done for me lately, be it my Second Amendment organizations or my legislators. Because this fight never ends. This fight has been going on, and we've been taking L's since 1934. But it's been going on since the signing and America becoming a country. Because New Jersey and other states didn't have like a Second Amendment per se, like it is written. But yeah, so this fight is always going to be there. And this is the most American fight there is. And we must expect better from everybody that fights in it. That's it. Everybody that fights in it, they have to keep a jaundiced eye on these people. And that includes your favorite YouTuber. That includes grifters. That includes dudes doing the work like myself. My friends and the ones that volunteer their time, they hold me to the fire. They hold me accountable. And I hold myself accountable to do the best I can with the funds I get, to make those dollars stretch as far as possible, to show up at events, to volunteer with other organizations like ANJRPC. I volunteer for their family day every year. And I go up there and I coach for, I think the event's like 8 straight hours of standing on your feet, coaching shotgun. That's what I volunteer for, the shotgun area where we have people from 8 to 100, or at least early 90s, come through and shoot guns. That's what I do. I volunteer with CNJFO with the children and introducing youth to rifles. I will be there. I will fight the good fight. I will do it even if I wasn't running 2A4E. I was in on the recall of a senator here in Jersey who eventually ended up losing, which was really awesome. We all need to do what we can, but to say the NRA need to be destroyed is really short-term thinking, and it's allowing yourself to be manipulated by people who either don't know the history of the NRA and what they've actually done, or are getting checks by others to poo-poo the NRA and downplay what they've done. The NRA was not a political organization in 1934 when NFA was passed. They were not. NRA really didn't become political until after 1968 gun control.
Right. And they kind of were fighting about it then. They were bickering a little bit then, and then they kind of did after the 68 happened. They're like, oh shit, we pretty much have to.
They lost a lot of members when they became political because a lot of people don't want to be involved in politics, and that included their membership. They had to build back up from there. A lot of people never bothered learning about the history of the NRA and learning what actually happened. And that's when I directed people to the Gangster Capitalism podcast. In the first few episodes, you actually learn about the history of the NRA. As a NRA certified rifle, pistol, shotgun, and range safety officer, I had to take the NRA courses that discuss their history as part of the basic instructor course for NRA. You had to take that first. And that's when they explained the history of the NRA was to improve marksmanship in the American military. They wanted to actually get a gun shooting culture post-Civil War. That's what that was about. They were about shooting rifles accurately, then sporting, hunting, doing that work. They were not about politics.
Creating structure and consistency there. Because, if you've got like baking or, playing guitar. So let's say you're playing guitar. They're talking about guitar out in the chat room. So, you got a guitar, and okay, you can buy like this kind or that kind or the other kind. That's great. Now you pick it up and you start playing it. And, you're going to play it good or you're going to play it poorly, right? You're going to start out playing it poorly and you're going to get better. But now, what are you playing? Are you playing this or that or the other thing? And nobody's wrong, but, people are going to play what they want on their guitar. And it's similar with a gun. Like, people are going to own this thing and they're going to decide how they're going to shoot it, and they're going to decide what works best for them, and they're going to decide what's accurate and what, how they do it. But if everybody's doing that, and everybody's what's the word, like satisfaction level with their accuracy is all over the place, that's not the same as everybody being accurate. You know what I mean? Like, everybody feels accurate, that's not the same as everybody being accurate. So the NRA was essentially like, let's make some games, let's make some competitions, let's make some ways for people to to challenge each other and to compete, and to create some structure, I guess, for all of that. Because otherwise it's just like, hey, let's get together on the weekend and compete. Okay, we did, big deal. But let's create some records. Let's let people actually create goals to become the best shooter, or the fastest shooter, or the whatever. So anyway, so the NRA, yeah, had some really different, and just that, like, just when somebody summarizes the origins of the NRA, depending on their interest or their level of how much they like the NRA or not, they're going to make that sound like, yeah, they did this, or they're going to make it sound like it's the greatest achievement ever, right? And anywhere in between. So can I throw something else out there? I didn't want to interrupt you before, but
Yeah, go ahead, man.
I think now that it was something about you saying earlier, I think there's a third option here. So you can hate the NRA and walk away. I'm going to take my money and go home. All right. So you're letting it burn, and Bloomberg would have paid you to help with that, but instead you just went home for free and stood with Bloomberg and watched it burn. I'll keep saying that because tell me I'm wrong. Like, if you're just going to walk away, you're standing on Bloomberg's side of the fire, right? Like,
Yep.
okay, the rest of us are either throwing water or still inside there, right? Trying to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
But, or you can, I don't know what the other option is. What, be a member and vote? And I understand people are like, we don't pay money to it. I don't care. I'm cheap too. I'm not, I mean, I'm already a life, I kind of was a life member and now I'm not, I guess. I am. I mean, half the time they say I am, and the other half when I need it to do something, I'm not. But I don't care because I don't really do that much with them. That being said, I'm not giving them money either. All right, I'm not saying you have to. But here's maybe a third option. There are existing life members. Maybe it's worth some outreach to existing life members and have a conversation. The same way that we are supposedly having conversations with the antis out there that might be in our family or at work or something, the same way that we might be having a conversation with someone who we think is having a mental stressor, where they might, it might be wise to have a conversation like, how are things going? Is there anything we want to go to lunch, or, to de-stress, or maybe talk about what's going on, whatever we can do to help a friend out. Maybe we have a conversation with an NRA member, go, hey, are you a casual NRA member? Like, what's going on? Do you have an opinion on it? Because I do. Here's my opinion on it. And maybe if we had a bunch of NRA members that were paying attention, and instead of just, a fringe, let's say, or what they might perceive as a fringe, however many that is, maybe if we had on a same kind of thing that Jeff or Neil Knox did in 1977 with the awareness campaign to get the NRA members to understand that they were trying to walk away from the political stuff, and that we actually, would be better off if the NRA, giant entity in the country, took on political stuff and, created awareness and actually created the ILA from that instigation. That's what's the other part that's silly. Everybody's like, oh, the NRA can't change, blah, 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 can't change, can't blame, change. Yeah, if that was the case, then the NRA would be in Colorado since 1977, because that's when they wanted to move to Colorado and quit doing politics completely. And the membership told them, nope, you're going to stay in DC and you're going to do politics. So the people that are saying it can't change are ignoring the part of it where it actually did change due to membership.
Again, I'm telling you, the people are either ignorant or willfully ignorant. And it's really annoying. It's really annoying when you learn they're just repeating stuff they heard. Like, not an original idea is floating in their freaking head. And it's like, you don't know anything about the history. I'm like, and my whole issue is, again, I'm old. I have to accept it. I'm older. I've been an NRA member since the early 80s. So I've got the magazines that I read cover to cover. You know what I mean? I have that. So I'm aware of things that happened prior. So when I stumbled across the Gangster Capitalism podcast, again, if you listen to 1.5 speed like I did, you'll burn through it faster. 6 different episodes, and you can actually learn the history. And when I put it out there, and I've been telling people for years, there's an episode of stuff that explains the NRA. It ain't kind. Use your own damn ability to critically think, but listen to it, at least learn what's going on. Nope. What? Well, it's not sliced into a 15-minute episode with a 5-minute intro of somebody shooting a gun and double entendre jokes about penises. So I can't pay attention to it that long. I'm like, but you're talking about dissolving an organization that fights for this right, and it's multiple times bigger than any organization that's second to it. All right, fine, dude. Join your local organizations. I think the NRA will get people back if they choose to, and if they do it correctly, and if they get a better media company than the one they had. Because what they had, I can't think of the name of it, and it's bothering me because it's right on the tip of my tongue.
Ackerman?
Yes, Hackerman McQueen. Something McQueen. Hackerman? Is that how to say it?
I don't know.
Ackerman McQueen.
McQueen.
Yeah. That was the name of the, and they, in my opinion, even before any of this shit came out, they sucked. They were bad. The firearms industry was growing. There were people looking like me coming into the industry in larger numbers than ever. And we got anything, nothing. And I'm like, why aren't you giving us the love that you say you want to? It was like when I went to my first NRA convention in 2015 or 2016, it looked like I stumbled into a Klan rally. I mean, there was me, and if you looked around, very, very few minorities of any type, unless they were passing as white, they weren't really there. And then Maj, myself, Coleon came along, but he wasn't an advocate. He was just a YouTube gun guy. He was not an advocate. But others started coming in after 2015. A lot more women started coming in, and they still only brought us in for the photos at the NRA dinner. There was no, oh, well, we already have a black guy, Moses Malone, is on our board of directors. Really? You have 70-something people on your board of directors. You have a black guy. I'm like, why doesn't it reflect what you want it to reflect? Why aren't you reaching out to a bunch of these people that are doing work all across the country in smaller ranges? Again, the NRA, ILA, those guys are the ones in the field. Those guys are the one at the ranges. Those guys are the ones at the gun stores locally. Those guys are working with Second Amendment organizations in your state and on your county level. Why isn't Big on RA talking to NRA ILA? They weren't. They didn't care. You know how many people I have? 1, 2, 3 members. I have the head of grassroots NRA ILA's phone number in my phone. I can call her. I have the representative for pretty much the entire East Coast to the Mississippi on my phone. I can call him. I have and then I have Kelvin, who pretty much is damn near the entire Midwest. They know who I am. They have the phone number. I talked to Kelvin at least a couple of times every other month or so. Matter of fact, I got to call him this year and wish him Happy New Year. But my whole thing is, those people know who's fighting the fight in the NRA, and Ackerman McQueen was not using any of that information. They had their old school version of what the NRA wanted to be, and it really didn't include us new people. They wanted us to join, but they want us to be just like them. They want us to still, look at the entertainment you have at NRA. What do you call it? NRA annual meeting.
Right.
It's nothing but country. Nothing but country western.
They're like tone deaf to where back in, I don't know when it was, when it was Dallas, like the early '80s, like in the '70s or
Yeah.
something. Like, oh, gun people or hicks, like gun people, or I don't know what to call a redneck because they're not really rednecks. I don't know what people that think rednecks, but people listen to country music, so that whole spectrum of like rednecks, hillbilly, but like yeah, like just I don't know, like people that are listening to country music. So essentially, if they're, I think that maybe they thought of like guns as an accessory to country music people because they'd market to everything was like you're cutting hay or dealing with a cow or something or riding a horse all the time. Like, I don't know how old what people are before they ever see a horse. But anyhow, or at least most gun owners, right? But yeah, I
Yeah.
think that was like the perception for a long time that just, or maybe military, but nobody was selling to military, so they just sold to the cowboy or to the hick or whatever. And then it's like some of them just never got out of that mode. And I think when they're making a shit ton of money, $500 million, what was happening is probably people were like, oh, I want to be part of this organization. I'll overlook the shitty marketing and become part of the organization because it's all there is. And that's pretty much probably how they got to that, what do you call, like the pinnacle. A
Hmm.
bunch of people like, oh, I need to be part of it. I don't care what the marketing is. Nobody was doing it because of the free bag or the free
Hmm.
backpack or whatever, or the free knife or the free pen or whatever the free thing was, belt buckle, I guess. That was a nice thing. And the marketing people thought, oh, okay, we're winning. We have a belt buckle. It must be the belt buckle. When in reality, it's a political issue. It's a foundational thing. It's a whatever, a political risk. It's a foundational principle. This is the only organization in town, therefore I'm joining. And they could have
Yep.
marketed up and down and backwards and we would have still joined. They thought it was their marketing, so they just stuck with it. And unfortunately, it was never good marketing, probably. I don't know if it was ever good marketing, really. It was just always like, here's a free gimmick. Like, that's not really the way to market if it's rights. And if it isn't rights, if it's hunting and, we're going to give you information and stuff about hunting, then, I don't need a free gimmick. Like, the free gimmick
Well,
is it's like our magazine versus the other magazine. Both of them are the same.
all right, I gotta go. I have a dinner appointment. But my whole thing, I wanted to double down and say what I say is it sucks. Their marketing was ass. They were able to get asses in seats as members because they required it for some range memberships. They required it for me to be on the rifle team in school. That's how they were getting it in, or they were giving free memberships away with certain purchases and stuff. And it annoyed the F out of me because, and then they would go, and I'm going to go back to the board member. Well, we have a black one. Well, you have 74 white ones. Why don't you have somebody that's fill in the blank of the other rainbow of colors of 2A advocates that I know are fighting in this country? You know what I mean? Fighting for our rights. You got Edgar in Colorado. You got Chris Chang out in San Francisco. Um, I never really break my friends down to what race they are, so it's really kind of hard to pull it off the top of my head. Um, but you know what I mean. I mean, you got Joe, you got Orlando.
I only see caliber.
It's really hard. It's like, wait a minute, I got to break my friends down now. You got Kevin Dixie, you got Maj, you have all those people that could have been, and if not on the NRA board itself, on the committees that they form. People don't know how that crap works. They have whole committees set up to do stuff, but everybody looked like this milk toast version of stuff, and they never tried to cross over and bring others in to make the Second Amendment uh, as inclusive as it should be. It should be apolitical and it should be um, for everyone. I don't know. Maybe someone should start an organization called the Second is for Everyone. But it damn sure didn't look like it whenever they had a meeting over in Fairfax. Not when I dropped by. Not when I went up there and had lunch. Not when I went to the range. They didn't make you feel inclusive. They were friendly. I'm not saying no one was. I'm not saying anyone was rude. But I'm like, look what comes through your door. Do you not see it? Or are you that tone deaf and realize that you go all day without seeing anybody that doesn't look like you? Like, in my opinion, The NRA left tons of money on the table, and they don't live up to their potential, and I'd like them to. So I'd like Wayne LaPierre right now, him stepping down to create an avalanche of sycophants stepping down.
Yeah,
And
exactly. If let's say there's 13 of them on the board of 7
Mhm.
that suck, that are dicks or whatever, and he leaves. He was the boss. Like, he was the one protecting them all. Who knows what secrets he's bringing with him and what his Rolodex like. So now, jerk ass number 2 or her is going to go
Mhm.
like, oh crap, I'm out of here too. I can take my golden parachute. It looks like Jared is saying that he got 17 million, but the thing I read said he got 4 million. So it might be, I haven't listened to Jared's thing yet, but maybe it's like this much from his retirement, this much from a book deal, this much from salary for the next 10 years, because they break
Okay.
shit for taxes or whatever. But either way, if one of them sees, oh, he booked out of here with his golden parachute, I'm going to book out with my golden parachute, and I book out with my. Now there's only 9 on the board. And now, like, again, are all these weakling, like, I can't do nothing, I have to watch everybody else do everything. Like, we can't take care of 9 B players, like the 3 worst left, right? Or maybe the 1 worst leaves and like 2 of the, what do you call it, like the least worst leave. But whatever, we still have only 9. And what's the odds of that next in line being anywhere near as bad as him or as good at him as keeping everything under the board? So I believe that these people aren't out to get anybody. I think they're just rich and lazy, and nobody really called them on shit until recently. So I don't think they're like strategists, like outplaying people, like running all over the country to keep doing. Like, they're just doing whatever, and like they finally got called out, and now it's like, oh, it's easier to just quit. So I think a bunch of them
Yeah.
are going to do that, and now we're going to have an NRA board that's like, what do we do next, everybody? And we're going to have
Oh,
like,
hell yes.
who's a member of the NRA now? Now it's going to be like a bunch of people going, well, we liked Wayne. Like, so it just makes no sense to like just watch it burn. And I mean, we're
Nope.
going in circles. You got to go eat or whatever.
Yeah, we got to go. Actually having dinner with the dude who does the kids shoot for CNJFO. Yeah, so Schlegel wrote something, and I agree with him. I'm not saying there should be a black one, a white one, a this or a gay one. I'm saying advocates should be promoted regardless of who they are, but especially if they put in work. I mean, you got Rick Hector finally got on the board. He's had 11 years of instructing women for free, hundreds of women at a time. That kind of work should have been awarded a long time ago. You know what? Rewarded a long time ago. You have Rhonda Ezel, who won cases that got Chicago its first gun shop. You have people all across the country that have put in work, but every time you turned around, they had these just one look. And now when you're telling it to grow and you're trying to increase memberships, but if everybody doesn't, no one looks like you. Like, you can walk through NRA headquarters all day and not find somebody that looks like you. It's hard to tell me that you find it welcoming. Now, I'm one of those people that I don't need that, but it's sad. A lot of people do. A lot of people are frightened off if they walk in the door and no one looks like them. That's race, religion, whatever. I didn't understand it, and people explained that to me.
Doesn't have to be fear as much as understanding the, what do they call that?
Oh, it's
culture.
fear, it's understanding, it's comfortability. Like, whatever, there's a lot of different reasons people. I never understood any of it because I'm the dude that walks off the military base in Japan with an English to Japanese dictionary and figured, hell, I'm black, I can't get lost. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, found a black guy. You don't belong here. Call the authorities. So I had no fear of that, and I didn't even understand it until I think my second or third diversity shoot, when one of my friends came up to me and told me. And I'm like, what? Yeah, some people don't feel comfortable. They don't really feel welcome if no one looks like them. Like, they're like, am I really welcome here? Everybody doesn't want to be that first person that breaks through the glass ceiling or the color line or whatever. I wasn't aware of that, but I was told that, and I've seen it at my events. I've watched it grow the more pictures I've posted up of Hispanics, of women, of blacks, of fill in the blank. Some people need to have somebody else be that first one through the door. All right, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody out there in the comment section, but I got to roll so I'm not late.
Yep.
Have a great weekend. I really appreciate being on.
Take it easy, man. Have a good week. All right, so yeah, so that's New York Outcast. Dropped that one, and then booked to go shovel snow. Here's why I like living in Arizona: snow and grass can go suck it. I don't have to scrape none of that shit up, and I hardly ever have to cut any of it down. I've never had to touch snow. Period. Which it has snowed here, but it's the kind of snow that goes away by noon when it does snow. So technically it snows, but it ain't snow. I've had to shovel snow when I went elk hunting or something, so I can go to where there is snow and have to deal with snow. But most of Arizona don't have no snow. And grass, I hate grass. I hate grass more than anything. So I do not miss anything about cutting grass. And turns out grass is horrible, so I hate grass. So he's over there shoveling snow, but different time of year, he would have had to do the same thing, cutting grass probably. Anyhow, yeah, so I think that's some points. Tony brought up some good ones there. We'll see what happens. I mean, here's the deal. It's all happening. So we've got a whole bunch of observers, and they're going to watch. We've got some people who are playing. We've talked with Jeff, who's running for the board. I forget, he said 4 people are running with him. And their whole position was to have this result. And, maybe they'll have more interest or more activity in their campaigning due to this. Maybe not. But, yeah, we'll see. Otherwise, there was, I think, another real question. What should the age to purchase and own a firearm and open carry? What should be the age to purchase and own a firearm and then open carry? I guess that's a good point or a good question. There's probably should be some age, and it would be easy to say when your parents say, but not everybody has that opportunity. So there probably does need to be some sort of a law. And I imagine 18 is as good as any. I think that you should start drinking like when you're 16 and maybe driving when you're 18. And, so you can start drinking when you're 16 and then you start having the rest of your rights when you're 18 so that you learn how to be a dumbass before you can do anything about it. And then I think it's a lot like they used to say when we were kids. I grew up during a time when the drinking age went from 21 to 8 or from 18 to 21. And the idea that if you keep somebody from doing something till they're an adult, that doesn't solve much because people are going to want to do it or going to do whatever they're going to do. It's just that now they have to hide it and now they're going to do it and sneak in. It's just going to cause more trouble than it's worth. And a lot of the accidents and stuff are due to people trying to hide the fact what they're doing rather than just be responsible doing what they're doing. And, drinking, there's nothing wrong with drinking. If you're going to have a barbecue and everybody's going to drink a bunch of beers, just sit around for a while until the beers wear off and then drive home, right? How hard is it to just enjoy the afternoon together? So, the problems come when people are dumb about it and they're trying to sneak around and shit, at least some of the problems, right? So I think there's something to do with that. Like, let the kids drink when they're 16, get it out of their systems, and then when they're 18, give them all their rights. Maybe? I don't know. I'm just coming up with that on the fly. But I definitely think 21 is a stupid-ass age to wait for anything. If someone is able to live on their own, then they ought to be able to protect themselves on their own. They ought to be able to purchase whatever investments they want on their own. They should be able to partake in society as an adult, right? So, I don't know. I don't think that's ever 13, but I don't know. I don't hang out with kids or whatever. So I feel like when you're 15 or something, right before you can drive, you're pretty stupid. So probably not that young. When you're 16, I don't know why we picked 16. That's not even that's like the middle of high school. You're pretty stupid. You think you know everything. That's the problem. But at the same time, you're old enough to be in situations where you don't get to decide nothing. It has nothing to do with how smart you are. So when do you want kids to be able to defend themselves? Maybe that's a question, right? Probably when they're capable of doing it and when they're capable of making the decision. So you have to talk to somebody who knows about development for that. So I guess my answer would be when they're capable, whatever age that is. 16, 15, 16, 19? No, not 19. Probably somewhere between 16 and 18, I guess. Maybe there's some coordination test. Maybe they put down a bunch of different guns in front of you, and if you reach for the 9mm gun, they slap your hand and they say you can't have a gun for another year. And then if you pick a decent caliber, they give you the gun and they give you the ammo, and they go, congratulations, well done, well played. And then you get to go have that gun and shoot it. I figure that's probably a decent way to do it. Smeggy saying he drove when he was 10 up north. See, if you count like driving around on lawnmowers, I think I had to drive a lawnmower as soon as I could sit up. I don't remember not mowing lawns. So driving lawnmowers and shit and tractors, I don't know if that counts, but as soon as you can reach I don't even have to reach pedals. I can remember having pieces of wood strapped onto the pedals so that I could hit the pedals. Well, I didn't have to do that, but little people have to do that, right? People are shorter. When you're little and short, like somebody strapping some wood on the pedals and you're still driving that tractor. Everybody can reach the steering wheel with a booster seat. So I can remember driving shit around as a little kid. But, you know, sometimes because we had to, because there was nobody else to do it. And, you know, something mostly because we wanted to. Yeah, I just happened to be tall. But when we were little, like there'd be little blocks of wood and they'd just strap them onto the things or hook them onto your pedals. People aren't going to, but back in the day, people weren't going to waste their time mowing lawns when there was a perfectly good kid there that could mow the lawn. Or fill in the blank, do anything in the yard pretty much. So anyway, if we have any other questions, did I miss anything? I think we got pretty much blabbing here. I keep thinking I'm going to do the show for an hour and then get some other stuff done, and then we do it for 2 hours. I'm going to go check and see if Brooke has posted a Suicide Prevention Saturday episode yet. This would be the first week in a long time. Well, I think last week she didn't have it up in time for this show to end, but like 5 minutes after she did. I don't know. I guess it's possible that she's doing something or traveling or something. I don't know. But I don't see one over there yet. So we are linked up to the Mouse Party, which will happen in about 9 hours at 12 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern or metric. All right, well, so with that, we'll wrap this one up. Can't believe anybody's listening this late. Oh, wait, is Smeggy going to SHOT? Maybe I found out about that. I think I heard that Pink is going, so we need to figure that out. Oh, that one I knew there was something else on my mind. So a handgun for someone with limited hand strength. Probably the tip-up barrel things are handy, right? And now there's some tip-up barrel 9mm, I think. Okay. Not even for like a day or whatever. You're all rich right now. You can just fly out there for a night, stay at a luxury hotel, and fly back. I don't know. I am not, probably a revolver is what I would say, but I don't know if that is really a good idea anymore. I would say because of the whole having to manipulate the slide, I would tend to think a revolver. Now my LCR is pretty decent trigger, but I don't know. There's a zillion triggers. You got to see what kind of finger strength you got. As far as the recoil, it's kind of like catching a broomstick or something, but man, I don't know. To me, I think the dilemma is manipulations. Hand strength isn't just holding the gun, and it isn't just shooting, and it isn't just pulling the trigger. It's also dealing with it. And if you've got any kind of arm issue and it doesn't cycle, so it malfunctions, and the slide only partially goes back because there's not enough, equal and opposite motion to let the slide reciprocate. If the whole pistol goes back with the slide, then the cycle doesn't happen, and you end up with a stovepipe or some kind of a double feed or some sort of a problem. One of the three major malfunctions that can happen with a standard box magazine into a semi-auto, and now what do you do with that? Now you have to probably readjust your hand and drop a magazine, because almost nobody has a long enough thumb to hit the mag release. Or what, like an old European mag release where you got to bring your second hand up to pull it out. So anyway, somehow you got to get your mag release open, then you got to grab the mag, and you're either grabbing and retaining the mag in your left hand, or you're offhand. Which, who cares about hand strength? Now you got dexterity and multiple things going on with different, each hand doing a different thing. And how many people train to actually remove and retain a mag, a tactical reload? Oh no, it says tactical in it, so I'm scared of that. So you can strip and drop all the mags you want, but I talk to people all day that don't carry a second mag, so you're gonna have to do a tactical reload. So now you're looking for the magazine release, you're removing and retaining the magazine, and now you're going to diagnose what's going on with the action. So you're going to flip it back over. So now more dexterity and more wrist strength, and fiddling around with, is that thing loaded? Is there a round in there? Is it stuck in there? So probably sticking fingers into chambers, fiddling around, wiping while retaining a magazine with your left hand and a pistol with your right hand. Oh, but no, Glocks are no good because they only have 34 parts, and they just, so what if they work? But anyway, so all of that, right? So you're saying semi-auto is not even an option at this point? Okay. Can't even pull, the PMR30, I forgot about that one, but wants to learn how to do it. I got you. So that one would suck. I got too many rim locks on it. I told you, I think, right? Like that thing would get a rim lock. Not all the time. If you load the mags, you figure out how to load the mags. It didn't happen very often, but when I was just not paying attention and loading the mags haphazardly, kind of inconsistently, I guess, I would get rim locks. So there's no way I would think of that one unless you were like super smooth. No, I would never think of that one as a defensive gun. But besides that, if there was a way to get like a nice double stack version of that, or like a, I don't know, decent caliber in it, that, I don't know, it is a giant gun. But there are kicks, what are they called? Not kickstands. There's little levers you can get, so you don't have to even touch the slide. So now if you feel comfortable holding on to it, you can just jam that. What are they called? Charging levers, essentially, or charging handles, right? Like they're little things that you strap onto the back or on the top. Sometimes you have to drill a hole or something, or sometimes you can replace the back plate or something. And then, just smash that against your leg or a belt buckle or some of the wall or something and pull it back that way. Problem is then you got a slide lock, or retaining the slide release. In any case, so then if it's a revolver, a brake top, holy shit, a brake top would be nice. And again, I blame the NFA for this because it probably should be something that looks like, I don't even know, something that looks like, some kind of a weird oval that you hold, and then you can, like be able to adjust it so that depending on which knuckles you want the round to come out of, like a little polymer straw would come out between those fingers, and you could just squeeze and push out, and it would, the bullet was coming out between those two knuckles, and then you could just squeeze it a bunch of times. Something like that would be awesome. I've seen a couple of round versions of that, but imagine if they took, I'm thinking of, what I'm thinking of? Imagine like a pole for hiking or skiing, right? There's like a shape to I think it's for skiing. There's like a handle that I've seen at the store before, and I don't think it's a golf club, maybe some golf clubs. But anyway, think of like a shape that would fit your hand naturally, and then just a little straw coming out between two knuckles. That's what should exist. And you could easily make that like a 6-shot harmonica mag, like what Browning's dad came up with, where it's like a clip, literally a clip that just holds 10 rounds and they just cycle through. So there's no way for it to malfunction because it's like double action. It's like bam, 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 bam. And you're just cycling a clip of 10 rounds through. That would be amazing. And then you could just make those rounds be essentially like big ass BB guns or little tiny paintballs or something, so that even if you messed up, you'd only like be throwing beanbags or something. That'd be neat. Anyway, so I guess something like that would be ideal since that doesn't exist. Have you? No, those are probably garbage still. Yeah, I think just either the LCR 600-ish or I just looked that up. Otherwise, I wouldn't know how much they cost. But they're not giving them away. I can't even remember how much I bought mine for. I thought it was more like 3.5, but I did buy mine a long time ago. I think an LCR. It's probably the best thing I can think of. Have you shot one before? Or have you gone to one, got one? They got a big, cushy grip and a pretty decent trigger. And you just put 38s in there, or weak ass 38s in there. If only you could put a moon clip in there, put 9mm in there, then there wouldn't be any felt recoil. There would be no perceptible felt recoil at all if you put 9mm in there. Problem is the 9mm, they don't actually cause knockdown power as much as they actually help your enemy. It's like giving vitamin M&Ms to your enemy, and they increase your enemy's hit points. So you're actually taking away ammo from your side, and you're giving your opponent hit points. Good thing is you hardly ever hit anything with a 9mm because it can't actually reach to the opponent. It usually hits the ground first. But in the unlikely event it ever actually does hit your opponent, it's probably going to increase their hit points. It's that unscrupulous of a round. There's much more decent rounds out there that aren't out to get you. Otherwise, something like the old 32, what are they? 32 8? No, they're not H&R. 32. They're not 32 ACP. They're 32 Smith and Wessons, maybe. If you can find ammos and you can find a gun. But there used to be things that were like a delicate J frame. Like, they weren't 38s, they were 32s, and they were small. But I don't even know who made those. Like, they're old. I don't think Smith and Wesson made them. I think they were some littler companies that made them. But some of those existed for a bit, and essentially they're bigger than like a Velo Bulldog or whatever. They're bigger than the old, the predecessors to the NAAs, but bigger. So like if an NAA is the modern version of the first little tiny revolver guns, the bicycle guns, there was like a modern, I think of that 25, that French 25 I have. There's a little bit bigger versions of that. I got a French 25 ACP that's double action. I wonder if that would work for you. It's made in Paris, and it's probably old. I don't know. And it's 25 ACP. And it's like 5 rounds of that. The trigger is like a shitty double action, kind of mediums. It's smaller than a J-frame. There's no way I'm going to get to it anytime soon is the problem. But whenever I can get to it, I'll yank it out of there. And I got a video of it somewhere. Problem is, I don't know if you're ever going to get one of those. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. You can't just like order one. It's a freaking gun made in Paris a million years ago, and it's a revolver in 25 ACP. But you might be able to point at that and find somebody who's making a modern version. There should be a 25 ACP revolver now that you're talking about it, though. And it should have, a big rubbery handle, and it should have some kind of a cam or some kind of, cams in the trigger to make it really easy to pull the trigger. And not necessarily the longest trigger pull. I wonder if it'd be possible to do I don't think a double trigger pull would be the way to do it. Maybe a switch that lets you do long trigger pull or short trigger pull, but it's always double action, but maybe some way to cam it. Otherwise, was there, I think I would say a 32 Smith & Wesson revolver. Is that still a thing? I guess I could go look. Where do you buy one of these things nowadays? Gunbroker, duh. They got everything. I just typed in 32 revolver in the here, and 32 Smith & Wesson long is definitely the caliber. There's a Charter Arms 32 H&R Magnum. It's probably outside of a J frame though. Here's a Marlin 32 tip-up revolver, an antique engraved one. It's only $2,200. How cool would it be to have a, like a 1907 tip-up 32 double action Smith? Oh, that's like a Lightning probably. Those are actually pretty delicate. I wouldn't get that. But yeah, I think there are. Oh, now that I'm looking, there's a police positive in 3220. I wonder how hard a recoil that is. I can't say that I've ever shot one, at least not that I can remember. But 3220 sounds like a, smaller caliber or a smaller round. But here's a 32 long in a Smith & Wesson 32 long. Okay, so that's what my recommendation is going to be. Go try to find a used shop that has some old revolvers and check out like an old 32, like I was saying before. For the longest time, people would just carry around whatever because they weren't all worried about stopping power and stuff. I don't know when it was. Probably when the gangsters and stuff with the 1920s. That's when they probably started carrying around bigger stuff. Probably because they could, because of the war. They could just go get the stuff cheap or steal it. And then, now when you've got somebody with a 32 and somebody with a 45, it's no contest. It's, your next person's going to get a 45. Nobody's going to buy another 32 after somebody's walking around with a 45. So probably there was probably an arms race, just not even intentionally, but probably just because of what was laying around. But I could be wrong. All right, well, so thanks everybody for the good questions. We'll be back. Let's see. I'll be back tomorrow, maybe. I'm going to go take one more quick look, do a quick search to see if there's a suicide prevention Saturday scheduled. But nope, I don't see one. So we'll be back whenever we're back. And we'll be back next week with more questions. Oh, yeah, seriously. And what the hell? 32 is still, I was going to say, it worked forever. I don't think that we started escalating in calibers because we needed to. People didn't get more hardy. I just think there was more calibers laying around, so people went to the larger ones. But 32 did the job for freaking ever. The main thing is just finding ammo, but I don't think it'll be too hard up to find, a few boxes to practice with and a few 100 rounds to have around the house in case. And then you're done. It's all you need. Anyway, so then I'll throw a commercial up here for the store. Thanks everybody who does buy stuff from the store. It helps us out. I keep talking about it, but I actually went in and spent about an hour today. I talked to Tony, and I wasn't sure what time to start the show, so I had like an hour to fart around. And I went in and started messing around where the sewing machines are. So getting really, really, really close to almost being able to walk into that room to where I can move everything out of the way and then be able to sew again. But yeah, I spent like an hour in there organizing, pulled out a bunch of dumb stuff. I had a bunch of dumb stuff like on the shelves that I had to get rid of and then put the new stuff that's dumb onto the shelves so that I could have room in the middle of the room to do the things I'm trying to do, like sew some stuff. But now that that's getting closer and closer, we will eventually have some more interesting stuff over on the store again. But until then, you can gather up whatever's left over there. We do appreciate it. We are heading to SHOT Show here in about a couple of weeks, less than 20 days. I forget what it is now. But yeah, purchases will be getting us headed towards the SHOT Show. So we'll be back and talk to you later.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
Also, if you want to check out some patches over at Allen Anchor, I believe they still have free shipping for orders over $35.
Captain, a vessel approaching.
On screen.
We're being hailed.
Every weekend over at PureWebsites.com, our online store, we have free Patch Friday. And that means that every order placed on our store on Fridays is going to include at least one free patch. So that's every order with no coupons, no minimum order, no codes needed. You place the order on Friday, and when it arrives to you, it's going to have at least one free patch. Your support means a lot to us, and financial support is critical. So thanks again to the people who keep us online through